Yes, sir.
We are rolling. Seabass, you good?
Yep.
All right. This is going to be fun.
Yes, I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Dude, absolutely happy to have you. All right, ready? Take one.
Go.
Oh, yeah, you don't have the logo on this one. Ah, that's true.
I can't play an intro without the Harbinger either.
That's we'll cut it in. We'll just
Yeah.
put it in
You
right
just have
about
to
here.
edit all those in now instead of doing them live.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, all right. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Which camera are we looking at? This one? Yeah, this one, that one, that one. Ah,
This is main.
all right. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Jared Monday's Strange Herd podcast. Today, I have a very, very special guest, the one and only Nico Lambo.
Hello.
My brother, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Dude, I'm excited to do this, man. I've been itching to sit down with another like musician.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say Josh, Joey, and Joseph weren't, but
We all know.
active, I guess is the way to put it.
Right, right.
But yeah, man, it's been so fun. Like, but just give the audience a quick rundown of what you do, who you are, and what you're doing right now.
Sure, yeah. I'm a local to Georgia drummer, teacher. I teach and play piano and drums. I don't really play piano on gigs or anything like that, but I know enough to, be able to teach some kids in their own house. So I run my own company where I'm book my own lessons in home. I work in a wedding band.
And what's the company's name?
I'm still testing names for it,
Okay.
but the first name that I've come up with is Lembo's Lessons. So I don't
The
know.
LL.
Yeah. I like the alliteration, or the assonance, I guess, if it's the consonant, I don't remember. But but like I haven't really decided the name quite yet. It's still kind of in the beta phase.
I gotcha.
But it's going very well. I have 3 days worth of students out this way on my own right now. I work in a wedding band called the Emerald Empire Band.
Yeah.
I also work with a cool local artist named Jared Monday.
Who's that? That guy sucks.
Yeah, it's charity, but I do what I can.
Walk right into that one.
Exactly. Right.
Golly.
No, but I play at a few different churches. I work at Music and Arts in Johns Creek, and I'm going to start soon at the Stone Mountain location.
Oh yeah.
So I've been here for about 10 years. Born and raised in Florida. Go Gators.
We'll let it slide.
I know. I think hopefully we'll win 6 games this year. We'll see. But born and raised in Tampa, Florida. Moved to Jacksonville when I was 17 after I graduated high school to go to the University of North Florida.
And that's where you went the music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Music school up in Jacksonville, North Florida. And I was there until about 2010. Wow, this is a long time ago now at this point. Once I start like actually talking dates,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like I'm old. I just turned 35 the other day.
Yeah.
But like spent a couple of years after I graduated kind of just playing around in the scene a little bit. I started working with an artist that I met on Craigslist, actually.
Good old Craigslist.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's Florida Craigslist, guys. So just
Right. So you have to really not care about your life very much. If
you
you're
got to
gonna
be
go
willing to
that
put it in
far.
God's hands.
Exactly, yeah. I was playing in a band at the time called Saltwater Grass, which was a jam band.
Mm.
We did the Spirit of the Swanee Music Park scene and all that. And I played at like Bear Creek Festival, Spring Fest, things like that down in Florida. And a couple of years through doing that, and I kind of decided that I was ready to move on and branch out a bit. So a buddy of mine who I met on Craigslist as well is a piano player and a trombone player. He was working with Saltwater Grass at the time, and he was like, dude, I got this cool opportunity up in Atlanta to start this band, which ended up being the Emerald Empire Band.
Yeah.
So I've been here 10 years. 10 years in January it was.
Hell yeah.
So just been doing that a lot, teaching a lot. My wife and I just had a baby. She was 16 months yesterday. Actually, yeah.
And I will let y'all know he has the cutest baby. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There's nothing like when she goes, "Hi."
She loves you.
Dude, I love how it takes her a second to go, "Oh yeah,
Oh
you."
yeah, right. Because her first reaction is to be like, "People know."
Like, you're not mom and dad.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's been probably the biggest change in my life so far. Has been just, having to be a dad and the provider of the family. My wife's staying home right now with Madeline. My wife's name is Melissa. Daughter's name is Madeline.
Shout out, Melissa.
Shout out, Melissa. Yeah, she's my your good friend from back in the day.
Oh yeah.
I know Carla, her mom was big into the kids and the being the team mom and all that.
God, yes, she was amazing. The whole family's amazing. Adam, Melissa, her dad, all of them.
Mitchell, her dad. It's a funny story how I met him, which maybe we'll get into later. But if I would have met Maddie's boyfriend the same way, I'm not sure if I would have reacted the same way.
That's fair.
So, very patient, very calm, very big man.
Yes.
So I'm very lucky to have him as a father-in-law. He's treated me like a son from day one, pretty much. So, I really can't complain at anything going on right now. Everything's going pretty well. Always trying to keep busy.
Yeah.
As much as I can. I've been trying to fill in some studio work, writing with you, which I'm excited to.
Oh, dude, I can't wait.
Get that stuff out there, and
So excited.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun in the next few months. So
Yeah, I mean, dude, and that's one of one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on the podcast is because the idea of the Strange Herd is just I want to have a very wide range of people with all different backgrounds and different influences, but kind of have it centered around music,
right.
because you didn't tend to meet a lot of very, very interesting characters in music, but yeah, I was just like, dude, Nico is doing this, like, me and him are on the same kind of path where we are trying to make a living, forge a living out of our instruments.
Yes.
And you have a wife and a kid.
Mhm.
You guys are doing it,
Mhm.
and then I don't know. It's funny to think because one of the ways I wanted to like kind of express to people is like there's ways to do it,
Absolutely.
and you don't have to give up and just think you're going to be the guy playing at the Mexican restaurant.
What's funny is after Maddie was born, I really started to understand why people quit music. Because if I wasn't working in music every day, teaching and playing, I would have not played my drums for at least a year.
Yeah,
I just didn't have the time to do it.
I think Joey even said something about that until like he had an offer to actually play.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't he's like I haven't and Josh the same. Josh broke my heart. Josh Moore, you have to start playing bass. You really need to start playing bass more.
Yes.
You're
Dude,
too good not to.
From somebody that hired both of those guys somewhat recently for a mutual friend's wedding.
Yep.
Valerie, those guys killed it. They came in, they knew all the songs and showed up on time. They looked great. They professional, really, really nice guys,
Since when the fuck do you guys show up on time to a gig? We were in a band. We were in Trolley Bay for fucking ever.
When it pays legit money.
That's fair. Wedding gigs are different than bar gigs.
They are, yes. There's a slight difference in professionalism with that.
Yeah.
Not much, but
I mean, that's kind of the thing is like, and you can kind of voice your experience on this.
Sure.
Excuse me. But going into your first band,
Mm-hmm.
like when was the first time you made money playing music? Like how old were you? Would you
I
guess?
was 12.
12?
Yeah.
Shit. All right.
Uh-huh.
How?
So my band director at the time, one of my big influences as far as my passion for music goes, Mr. Tony Fuoco at the Oak Grove Middle School in Clearwater, Florida. He's since retired. Good for him because he was in it for a long time. But his main instrument was drums, and so I think he kind of saw a kindred spirit in me. When I was in jazz band, he would bring in songs like, Sing, 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 or 25 or 624 from Chicago.
Mm.
Chicago's my favorite band of all time. And I would go and I would learn the original recordings and like cop all the drum parts and, stuff that the other drummers didn't do at the time, because when you're young, you want to play chops, have fun, whatever.
You want to hit it and just...
Yeah, it's not about music at that point. It's just about trying to figure out what music is to you.
Yeah.
And so he, I think, really appreciated the fact that I took more of a mature approach to learning the songs. He recommended me for this. It ended up being like a youth kind of musical theater camp, basically.
Okay.
Over the summer, and so it was through the city of Clearwater. They sponsored everything, and I was paid a whole $50
Woo!
for an entire summer's worth of work.
$50 is $50.
To exactly, man. I mean, I spent that money on all kinds of stuff. I don't even know what anymore. Probably Pokemon cards, but
Well, yeah.
which I didn't pull anything. But that's a different story. But anyway, so that was kind of my first foray into that. The very first gig I ever did, paid gig anyway, was for this show, and the director of the show was the piano player, and she couldn't direct and play the piano at the same time. So she pre-recorded all the piano tracks. So it was literally me in the orchestra pit, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, somewhere my mom has a picture of me down there. So I don't know. I hope it never sees the light of day, because that's the most embarrassing thing ever. Because I'm wearing sunglasses too. Like I thought it was super cool.
You had to. You had to.
So after that, I was like, all right, kind of got my feet wet, and I've been kind of going since then. Not. Hopefully making a little more than $50 here and there, but you know how it is in this business.
Yeah. I mean, dude, that's the thing is, you got like the gigs in Athens, like love Athens, Georgia, as much as you can, I guess. But I mean, when you go to a bar that wants you to start playing at 10:45 at night,
mm-hmm.
and they want you to play till like 1 a.m.,
mm-hmm.
and then once you do get done at 1 a.m., you got to then pack out,
mm-hmm.
and there's nothing but all the drunk teenagers and underage kids that are first time in college, freshmen that don't know how to act.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all belligerent and drunk and running through the streets like animals.
Yep.
And then you're carrying all your shit.
Yep.
It's just like,
I'm fortunate that the college that I went to was at that time anyway was a lot smaller.
Yeah.
I haven't been back to UNF or really Jacksonville in a long time, but it was more of a academic school. It wasn't a party school. We didn't have frat houses. It wasn't like UGA. And I think it's probably was a good thing.
Blessing in
because
disguise.
it was, because I got done in 4 years. Never would have done that had I have gone to UF, which was my first school, just based on family history. That was our favorite.
Yeah,
that's by my team. My uncle went there. Not a great music program, but it would have been okay, I guess.
Yeah.
That would have been in 2006 and 2008 when they won the 2 national championships.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's ancient history at this point. It's
Wow.
been so long, but I probably would have just gotten too wrapped up in all of that to even care about being in school. So I think going to the smaller school also, it really helped that one of what became to be my favorite drummer is a man named Danny Gottlieb, who teaches at UNF. He was the original drummer for Pat Metheny, the Pat Metheny group, and among lots of other. He's been around for years. He's a great drummer, great guy. I went and saw him play at USF in South Florida, in Tampa one night with just a random band, and I left that show like flat as a pancake. Like that dude just ran me over.
It's like, what am I even doing playing drums?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, well, he teaches at USF, but he's only an adjunct. But he teaches full-time at UNF. And he had only been there for like a year or two at that point. So the word hadn't quite gotten out yet. Obviously, this is before like social media was a big thing and all that too.
Facebook was just starting.
Yeah, right. And it was only for college students, really. It wasn't really for high school kids. So, he would take in people that probably didn't need to be there, people that had a great attitude and were great guys, but just not to the level, like obviously you're going to college to learn something, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
But you have to have a little bit of basis in that before you go to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these kids, I could tell, had never played in a jazz band. They had just never even really heard jazz before. And so he was just taking like anybody and everybody, which is probably a good thing for me.
I mean, well, it's funny you speak about the jazz band. I'll give a shout out to Mr. Joe Bader. He was kind of similar. Like I just wanted to play everything. Yeah. And he's like, well, Jared, you can if you can read the sight music, I'll let you play percussion.
Right.
If you can sight read. And I just did kind of like a drum line.
Yeah.
The movie where he just memorized it.
Yeah. Yep.
I just listened and memorized it. And he's like, good job, Jared.
That was basically my audition, by the way. Sorry for the slight coughing for whatever reason. I've had this cough for a while. But that was kind of my introduction into percussion as well. My Mr. Fuoco asked me what instrument I wanted to play after we tried them all. And I was like, I think I want to play percussion. And so he gave me a little, and I would.
It's like, if you can copy what I do.
Yeah, right. And so it was just a few little, like a preliminary kind of things. Like, all right, cool, you're good.
Well, it's
So.
funny because like the jazz band aspect, not like I've never heard Take Five before.
Right.
Greensleeves, the like all those standard ones. I mean, Melodious Monk.
Yeah. Thelonious Monk.
So yes, Thelonious Monk.
Mhm.
Like actually hearing that for the first time.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Dude, hearing that stuff for the 100th time sometimes is kind of the same way, you know?
Well, it's just you get so boxed in. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially if you're trying like as someone that plays music, and this is kind of another area I want to talk to and really dive in is like playing cover music is so good and yet detrimental.
Yes.
You make like if you play all the right songs, like right now, like I was telling before we started rolling, this one gentleman was asking, "Hey man, how much to get you to play Small Town by Jason Aldean?" Because it's the controversial thing right now.
Right, yeah.
But it's like, I mean, shit, how much you got?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have no morals in this business.
I mean,
it's pretty obvious.
You're asking us to sing and dance, man. I'm doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you can take those kind of things and it's good for you money wise. But then, what I've been finding out recently and one of the big things that pushed me to reach out and like say, "Hey, Nico, I need you to start playing with me, man.
Mhm.
You're an absolute phenomenal drummer,
Thank
and you push me to be better." And the musicians I play with, they're like Ethan, the guys from Hometown Youth. They're good. There's no denying that they're talented. It's just there's layers. Like there's guitar players miles ahead of me. There's
Right.
singers that are definitely better sounding, if not better looking. And
that's
then
true.
it's just like it's just a fact.
Yeah.
But the cool part about it is like I've taken enough psychedelics to have my ego killed.
Yep.
So I'm like, look, if you're better than me, I want you on my crew.
Yeah.
Like I want you on this endeavor.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna make me better.
It doesn't make sense to be jealous. It's really easy to do that. And I find myself feeling that way sometimes, especially with peers of mine, who because I'll be the first to admit I'm not the greatest drummer in the world either. You know, there's plenty of guys here in Atlanta that run circles around me, and I don't make any. There's no bones about that. But those guys, like, I'll go see them play, and I'll be like, hey, let's jam sometime. Can I take a lesson from you?
Mm.
Guys like that love to do that kind of stuff. And if they know that you're really into it, they'll charge you like $50 and you'll just sit there and for like 2 or 3 hours and
Yeah.
just play drums and you'll, pick their brains.
I feel like they're like hot girls. They're just no one ever approaches them.
Yeah.
And so when you just go fuck it,
Right.
they're like, dude, yeah, I'd love to teach you some shit.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because like people that are really into the music aspect of it, like they have to, That was kind of my hang up about being a teacher when I first started after college was like, there's that old thing if those who do, those who can't teach, and it really came from more of a place of like, well, I am doing this. I'm doing this. I do it every weekend. I do it all the time.
Oh yeah.
3 or 4 times a week. We're in rehearsal. We're writing. I'm rehearsing with another band. I might have a weekday gig. I do that. I do all the time.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
doing now.
Well-
but I've learned so much from my teachers that if I were to not pass that information along to somebody else, that's not a good thing. You should want to be able to take what you've learned and show it to other people. you know?
Yeah. I love that saying, in teaching you'll learn and learning you'll teach.
Yeah.
And I mean, like just being around, like you say, being around those people, just ask them, hey man, can you just show me how you do what you do?
Yeah.
Like there's a drummer that I got the pleasure of seeing in Florida. His name's Jared Street.
Okay.
And big old black dude, awesome dreads, and just absolutely disturbingly good.
Yep.
Like I go home and take a shower after getting
Yeah.
singing, like it's, but like he's the same way. He's just like, yeah, do you just do this, that? And he saw me play drums. He's like, dude.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I was down there playing an open mic,
Uh-huh.
or it was a jam band night. But there's a huge music community in Panama City, Florida.
Yeah.
Because you can, like, during spring break and summer, like it's hard to get in, but once you get in,
Yep.
there's places that you can book, like the noon to 3 gig,
Mhm.
and then you come back at 7 to 10,
Mhm.
and then like you can then go to the next. Like you can blow your voice out from how much work you can get.
I did that a few years, well, not a few years in a row. Actually, the last time I was going to do this, the weekend before COVID hit. So there's a band in town, the Mike Veal band.
Okay.
Mike Veal is a singer. He's got the best musicians in Atlanta working for him. because of the music. You know, his gigs pay well for bar gigs. You know, but for me, if I get a call for that gig, it's because I know that when I get there, I might know 10% of the songs. The other 90% of the songs I might have heard on the radio one time in my life.
And you're just memory.
And I mean, you're just like, all right, because what he does is he doesn't go to any gigs unless it's like a gig, you know, with a set list.
Okay.
You're just gonna play whatever, you know. And so what he does is he has the audience tip, and based on the tip, they'll ask for a song, and it could be Sweet Home Alabama, or it could be some random Atlanta rhythm section song that I don't know with extra bars in it, and 3/4 time, and you know. And so he's got this savant piano player named Tom Gross, who I adore. Tom Gross, he's just one of my favorite people on the planet.
Last name Gross.
Grose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because also he's gross at the keys.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
But he sings really well as well. So they
that's a
sing
good combo.
harmonies. This dude knows every song, and I think ever written. He's just one of those kind of guys that just has it like just in there. And he knows all the parts. He knows all the harmonies. He'll be able to direct you through it. You know, it's really the only band that I can go and sit in. Right? They play every Wednesday at Tin Roof. I haven't been there in a while. I need to go. But you can go sit in and have them play Bohemian Rhapsody.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And so like that's why I take that gig if it's offered to me.
Yeah.
You know, the weekend before we went. So a lot of times, what I would do with him, what he does, he goes down to Key West like 3 or 4 times a year. At this bar called the Hog's Breath Saloon.
Love the name.
And so he'll go down there, and the bar owns a house, a band house.
Okay.
So they put us up in the house, and it's for a week. And so we'll play Monday to Sunday, or actually Sunday to Sunday, from 10 to 2. You know, it's outside, so it's in Key West in July, so it's the worst.
It's a little
weather-wise. But you know, that's the same kind of vibe. You know, Key West is like PCB, where it's just a big party the whole time you go down there. And so like, well, you know, you'll make $300 or $400 a person in tips sometimes.
Oh yeah,
It's
especially if you're playing at one of
ridiculous.
those places where people are just filing through all day.
And that's what they do.
Yeah.
You know, it's an outside gig. There's maybe enough room for 50 people in there, but like those 50 people leave and a new 50 people come in.
And you play Margaritaville again, and they pay you $5-10.
100%, dude. Yeah, I mean, and I played some shit there too. You know, like because like people are like, oh, you're from Georgia, so you must know like every Allman Brothers song ever written. Which, by the way, Allman Brothers are from Jacksonville. They're not from Georgia.
How dare you? You have to defend that, sir.
I 100% will.
That is Macon's. Those are sons of Macon, Georgia.
Now, to argue that they got big once they got to Macon, you can't argue that.
Well,
That's what happened. But they originated in Jacksonville.
Like they were born there? Or?
Well, Dwayne and Greg were born in Daytona, Florida. But J-Mo, Butch Trucks,
Jamie, pull that up.
they're all from Jacksonville.
Dude.
So
Hold on. I'm just like, I have to just, because I know if we actually do get some people that watch this, like besides the 4 kids in India that like are subscribed,
right.
we're Allman Brothers from. Allman Boys.
ALLMAN.
Wait, what is it?
ALLMAN.
And
All Man Brothers. Yeah.
Never noticed it was spelled like.
Son of a
bitch! All right, well,
and just so everyone knows.
just it's Google verified.
Yep.
Damn.
No, they're now you know they formed there. They moved to Macon, and
Well,
then
you know
that's
how
when
it
they got
is.
famous.
Yeah,
of course.
I mean, you know, like I think wasn't Leonard Skinner from Florida too?
Yep. Yeah.
Like-
Leonard Skinner, 38 Special, Molly Hatchet, and the newer generation, Shinedown,
Oh yeah.
Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. I don't know if you remember them.
Isn't it funny how like I've noticed that when I'm like driving with my windows down in Florida, you hear like the hip hop, you know, all the beach kind of party music, but then when you pull up to this like someone's got a local plate, it's just it's just my experience.
Mhm.
This is my truth. Okay, is that I feel like the locals they really fucking love the hard stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like they're being raised around it
Yeah.
their entire life.
Yep.
That they're just like, hey, I want something a little heavier than Margaritaville.
Well, I think it's Under Oath. The band they're like they're a metal band.
Yeah.
I think they're from Ocala or Tampa originally. So Florida has a big. I mean, Miami's famous. Gloria
Miami is
Estefan.
Miami.
Yeah, Miami's not really a part of Florida. We don't consider Miami part of Florida. We don't. It's not something. It's like, oh yeah, Miami. That's in Florida. I totally forgot.
It's annexed Cuba,
Basically, yeah.
which is not a bad thing. I'm not hating.
No. Miami. The couple of times I've been there. So when I was in Jacksonville working with Saltwater Grass, we had a percussionist in the band. JP. He's good. Still a really good friend of mine. And he's from Miami. I think he was from Colombia originally, but his family, settled in Miami.
Yeah.
So he still had a lot of connections down there. So we'd go down there to play, once or twice a year. And it was just there's a whole other planet almost. It's like I can't even believe this isn't the same planet. Even,
Yeah. Like you could. Oh, sorry. I thought I heard something.
I did hear something.
It might have been upstairs.
It was upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully, no one fell over. We cannot hear them.
Right, you are dead.
It's like if my phone starts ringing, I know somebody fell over.
Yeah, right.
But it's life in the bunker.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean that's the crazy part about it is like you get to that point where you can actually like travel,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I'm starting to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like people ask like Jared, what do you do? Where do you live? And he's like, well, I can tell you what I do. That's easy. I play music for a living.
Right.
Where I live?
That's another. Yeah, it's harder.
It's kind of like wherever.
Right.
Like I make enough money to be where I be.
No, man. I mean, I really kind of hit it at a good part or a good point in just the world in general, with the economy and all that. Because when I was living in Jacksonville renting a room, I mean, my total expenses for the month were like $400.
Yeah.
I lived in a house with like 2 or 3 other guys. I mean, we all split the utilities, so I'd pay like $5 a month for water. We don't have natural gas down there; it's all electric.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
We didn't have that, and like rent was super cheap. And so I would teach, and I would get paid $200 a week to do that. And then Saltwater Grass didn't pay fuck all. It was literally just because you were trying to go on tour and make it.
Yeah.
So the band would get paid pretty well. We'd make $6,000-8,000 a night, but that went back into the band for touring,
Yeah.
upkeep on the van, buying food on the road. So then that way, at least it didn't cost you anything to go out.
Now, how did you guys like wrangle in that kind of price for per night?
Well, at first, so I came into the band late.
Okay.
There's 2 albums on Spotify. The second one, Out of the Everywhere, is the one that I'm on.
Okay.
So if you check it out on Spotify, Saltwater Grass, Out of the Everywhere, that's me on that one. Their first drummer was on the first record.
Okay.
As we started to kind of build more of a following in Jacksonville, like we would play, out of a month, right? You got four weekends in a month, right?
Mm.
So we'd play in Jacksonville. Actually, another tidbit, another
Fun fact.
Yeah, fun fact about Florida is that Jacksonville is the biggest city landmass-wise in the United States. Duval County that's it. That's the only county in Jacksonville. So here in Georgia, we got Gwinnett County, we got Fulton,
Yeah,
Fayette,
Fulton
whatever.
I think is the biggest one right now, but
Right.
yeah.
But it's not by like land mass.
Yeah.
Just in terms of how much land there is there.
That's insane.
Within Duval County, within Jacksonville, it's the biggest city land mass wise in the country. So that was really good because we were a beach band. We all lived on and near the beach. So you could go down there. We would sell out this little like shithole bar, my favorite bar on the face of the planet, Fly's Tie, in Atlantic Beach, and we would sell that shit out every month or so. We played there like every 4 to 6 weeks, and people would be out the door. I mean, we had the cops called on us because it was just too loud, So like when and pulling that kind of crowd, $400-600 is not that much for a band.
Well, especially if you get 400. How many people do you think were showing up? Like,
throughout the night at a place like Fly's Tie, probably at least 300 or 400 people.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. What always pissed me off about the Athens bars is they would pay you $200 as a 5-piece band.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, dude, what do you know? Like,
But we could command that kind of price because we also had really good relationships with a lot of the bar owners.
yeah,
A lot of the bartenders. This is the thing. If you ever get a steady gig for any amount of time, just by yourself or with a band, make good with the bartenders.
Treat them right.
Don't even worry about you want to keep management happy.
Yeah.
Right? But I played at this bar in Jack's Beach called the Land Shark Cafe. I played there with my jazz trio, and I played there from 2008 till about 2013 or 14 when I moved here.
Okay.
Every single Friday from 7 to 9, that was our gig. And it was a perfect gig because most of the other gigs that you had would be on the beach. Right?
Yeah.
So those gigs didn't start till 10, right? So I'd go do my jazz gig from 7 to 9, go early to the other gig, set up another set of drums.
Yeah.
Like Fly Stye, he did this all the time.
Well, if it's a jazz kid, if you can.
Right. Well, at that time, I was driving a 99 Camry, which I'd still be driving if I had it, because they're the best cars ever. They just don't die.
do not die.
They don't. You got to put it down, which was the saddest day of my life, It was like Old Yeller. But except it was red, so it was like old redder. I don't know,
Like
whatever.
Clifford.
But right, right. But like, I would go to Fly Stye early, set up my kit down there, go back to Land Shark, play my gig, go back to Fly Stye from 10 to 2. So I'd work from 7 to 2.
Oh yeah.
And it was just a really great venue to play. That bar changed ownership more than the House of Representatives. I mean, it was insane.
Every 2 years.
At least, not
Yeah.
even.
Oh,
every
yeah.
maybe 14 months.
Oh, Jesus.
There was a new owner. But the bartenders all stayed the same.
Exactly.
So we played for like $200 for the trio, At that time we were in college, so it was, it was
Better than nothing.
a fair wage, You're not a professional yet when you're in college,
Yeah.
So we would do that, and throughout that whole storyline of that bar, we were one of the only consistent people because we would share our tips with the bartenders.
No, you tip them out.
Yep.
I'm all for definitely make sure. Hey, if you get, usually bands get at least some kind of compensation on the bar.
Yep.
But if you get like $30-$50 and you get, you don't go over your tab, throw the bartenders. Tip them out. Man.
Yeah. I mean, y'all are there to help each other.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed is some places, like I've been in bands with people where somebody in the band kind of thinks, oh, we're the reason people are showing. I'm like, not quite yet.
Right.
But we don't want to come out of this as adversaries. You want to come at this as a partnership.
Yeah.
Like if you guys are a kick-ass bar and we're a kick-ass band, this should all work out.
Right. And it'll help out everybody, More people come to see us, that's more tips for you, and it was a very symbiotic relationship. So I think that probably was what kept that gig going for so long. I mean, that gig, it was one of the longest running gigs in Jack's Beach that I knew of at that time, 5 years. That's a crazy amount of time to keep a gig at a bar every single weekend.
Well, just
5 years.
the guaranteed money.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the one thing about a drummer. And like last night, the gig I was playing at a private party, it was a solo gig, and they paid really well. The people were wonderful.
Yep.
And they were so generous. But the hostess, the guy, the wife, excuse me, she was like, hey, how much do you think it would cost for him to stay for another hour? Because I played from 6 to 9.
Right.
And then they asked how much for me to play for another half hour. I was like, dude, I might as well do an hour.
Yeah.
So go ahead and let's bump another 150 on there and call it a night. And he's like, 150? I was like, it's like, I got places to be.
Absolutely.
Like I
fulfilled my contract.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you in overtime. This is basically overtime.
Yep.
And I got done with that hour, so it's now 10 o'clock.
Right.
And his wife's like, how much for another hour? And thank God the husband's like, honey, he's been singing for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, my voice can't take much more.
Right. I could do a solo guitar set.
Yeah. Just an instrumental.
Right.
But I mean, even like with drums and stuff, I mean, like the drums is depending on the style or the genre you're playing. I feel like that is a great option for a lot of gigging musicians.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I can kind of hold my own on drums, not do what you do necessarily, but I did play in a 6/8 time the other day.
Nice.
I was very proud.
There you go.
And everyone's like, it's like most of the blues songs, Jared.
Small steps.
Well, you'd love this. So I was trying to just get the drum idea down, and I was just like, why is? And then I sent it to my buddy Brad, and he's like, dude, you're playing the hi-hat in 4/4. And it's like, that's why you keep getting off the click.
Right.
And then I did the And I was like, oh shit! it all
Right,
fits
right.
together.
Now it makes sense. Right, yeah. That kind of leading back to what I was saying before about my upbringing. My dad played drums, and so did my grandpa.
Damn.
And so my grandfather actually played professionally in Chicago when he was younger and played like jazz gigs.
The state or the band?
Oh no, not the band.
Okay, I was about to say Nico. Nick, we got to back up a little bit.
No. My dad's side of my family is from Chicago, Illinois. So my grandpa played in all kinds of groups there for a long time. And so he was the first guy when he started to notice that I was starting to become interested in playing the drums. Then he was like, "You got to check out jazz. Jazz is where it's at."
I remember
He said his quote, and I remember it. It's so simple. He said, "If you can play jazz, you can play anything."
I agree.
And I didn't understand that for the longest time, up until recently almost, because when you really get into the music, and I'm not saying that I am or do, there are plenty of jazz guys that...
You do.
Yeah, but not like some people that I know.
yeah, that's fair.
Jazz is a very studious, very serious art form,
Yeah.
When you start getting into that kind of thing, you understand that there is so much more to that style of music than there is to most other styles, because you have to play... I'm not saying that dynamics don't exist in other styles of music, but you have to play with dynamics. You have to play with a lot of soul, a lot of heart.
A lot of push and pull.
A lot of push and pull. There's a lot of ways of doing it. There's not just one way of playing really anything, but jazz especially, It's such a nebulous... It can be such a nebulous kind of thing.
Well,
There's so much history.
That was the other thing I was about to say. There's so much history about it, from the Harlem Renaissance all the way down, even further back than that. I mean, like, you can just... And it always seems to be, to me, at least the impression I always got of jazz, is that it's just this... It's a mix of feel players,
Yeah.
and then just musically theory smart people.
Yeah.
And it's like you just cross with the...
Right.
And it's
the first American art form.
true.
And musical art form anyway. The other one being hip hop, which is also derived from jazz, because in the inner cities, or in the inner city of New York and Chicago, places like that, these young MCs would rap over these records, and they would loop parts of the record, which were a lot of times like Miles Davis records or Return to Forever fusion type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And before they got really out there in the recording, they'd just like pinpoint one certain part of it, and then they'd just run that loop over and over again. They'd rap over that. So the very first rap artists, R&B artists, were really jazz musicians.
Yeah.
It was kind of like jazz taking a different form.
Well, you think about how many people in the music industry now sample that.
Yeah.
Like, I loved hearing this breakdown of Daft Punk's song. I can't remember that off the top of my head, but it was one where they had about 14 or 13 samples.
Yeah.
In, I think, the first verse. And like it's just incredible how they could make it. And I mean, that's why I'm kind of drawn in this weird, like, there's a fence that I keep sitting on. Because it's like there's some people that do that, and they sample other people's music to make a new song.
Right.
And it's like, but like if it's kind of like Jay-Z or the some of the other like, I think Tupac did it, where they have like those musical pieces that they snip, and they make it that like duh, duh, or that's John Cena. I was about to go da 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 da. It's like, that one's not right.
Well, there's I think it's a Jay-Z song where he samples Black Cow from the Steely Dan album.
Yeah.
Bow, bow, bow.
Yeah, it's like
Bow,
stuff like
bow,
that,
bow, like
where it's
that.
like, unless you really know that song,
Right.
Like I got called out, and I don't know if you did this as well as a musician, just having the ear. But one time I was with my sister and a bunch of her friends. We were going to Athens just for a little fun get out thing, and her friend Erin is going through the radio, and so it's like, you just hear something, and then I hear I'm on, and I was like, go back. They're like, what? That was Shakira. And the car full of girls just looks at me like,
Yeah.
is this motherfucker serious?
Bro, no, I mean,
But that little snippet I could recognize.
Yeah.
And that was, and I mean, you do that with the samples.
Yeah.
And so if you can pull that in there, and then you add something else that's in the same key or something like that.
Yep.
Next thing you know, you have a whole ass song of other people's music that's put together in a musical form. So it's like, who really owns it?
Well, there's so part of my teaching philosophy for drums anyway is kind of trying to help decode a lot of it. You know, when you listen to someone like Neil Peart, or even John Bonham or Keith Moon, whoever, you know, insert drummer here. Buddy Rich is a great example.
I love Buddy.
They, it seems like what they're doing is almost superhuman in a way, and it's hard to kind of figure out. I mean, to me, even now, it's still difficult to figure out half the stuff that Buddy plays. I don't have any idea.
I mean,
I don't know how he plays that fast. It's not physically possible.
well, I mean, and match group or no, yeah, Buddy, he was traditional, right?
Traditional, yeah. But when you break it down, you simplify it to the most basic form, right? There are only 3, arguably 4, different strokes that you can play with a pair of drumsticks.
Yeah.
Right? Single stroke, double stroke, flam. And then the 4th that I would kind of say would be like the press roll.
Okay.
Because the press roll requires a different hand technique to play it. And although it's kind of considered a closed double stroke roll, you're not really playing double strokes. You're playing buzzes.
Yeah, it's like bzzz.
So it's a different kind of stroke. So I could argue that it's one of the ones that you also can use. You know? But like a drag is 2 open doubles and a single. A paradiddle is 2 singles and a double, right? So you only have those 3 or 4 strokes to play. And then when you boil down every time signature in existence, 21, 8, 16, or whatever you want to call it, it's really just playing things in groups of 2s and groups of 3s.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's it. And so when you boil it down to playing singles, doubles, and flams in groups of 2s and 3s, it really helps to take a lot of that guesswork out of it, about 70% of it.
Okay.
You know, then it's about like, well, how do you use those strokes, right? I talked with when I was in school, the saxophone teacher there was a gentleman by the name of Bunky Green who worked with Elvin Jones. He worked with Charles Mingus back in the day up in New York. Serious dude. He was one of the first kind of free jazz guys, you know.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, there is no such thing really as improvisation.
What?
Because
say that again.
there's no such thing as improv.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm following you. I'll follow you.
There's nothing that you can play that you haven't ever heard before, right?
Because you only have so many notes.
Yeah, and only so many ways of putting those notes together. So when you improvise, it's not that I'm playing something totally new,
Yeah.
right? It's that I'm playing something different with the same way, right?
Well, yeah, and that's like I think I might have gave you that illusion or that not illusion whatever. But I remember one time we were talking. I think it was you and me. I was talking about how I was I can't remember if we were dating or not at the time. But this girl was a painter, and I was just having super bad writer's block,
Mm-hmm.
and I was getting stuck in that trap that I feel like a lot of musicians do when they're writing music.
Yep.
That they get stuck in the trap of thinking, oh, this sounds like another song.
Mm-hmm.
And the way she broke it down is there's only so many colors of paint,
Mm-hmm.
there's only so many chords, and the music that you want to make is on a blank canvas.
It's how you do it.
Like you can paint a picture like Bob Ross with your little trees and your happy mistakes and all the rivers and the valleys and clouds.
Yep.
And you can follow along with him and how he's doing it, but your picture will not look the same.
Exactly.
As his.
Yeah, it's the how, it's not the what.
Exactly.
And that's kind of, as I get more into lessons with my students, as we get past the basics of technique and all that,
Yeah.
it's really more about like, how do you play this stuff?
Yeah, like
Not
how do you make
what
it
do you
yours?
play.
Yeah.
What you play is insignificant. It's how you play it.
Exactly.
You know, Miles Davis, my biggest influence outside of drums, my biggest musical influence outside of drums, Miles Davis. That dude can play 3 notes, pop, 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 and it'll be the hippest thing you've ever heard in your entire life. God, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
he just played 3 notes. You know, listen to, in my opinion, arguably one of the greatest jazz records of all time, Kinda Blue. His very first solo on So What, he uses, I know this because I had to transcribe his solo for an assignment in college. He uses all of 5 notes.
Okay.
And he just goes back and forth between those 5 notes. Maybe 6.
Different octaves, but same notes?
No,
or
not even octaves.
Same?
Yeah. Maybe an octave here and there.
Okay, yeah, but I mean,
But it's very, very, just the way that he does it
it's tasteful.
is the hippest thing on there.
Well, and it's like thinking about music today and the way that the artists, the bands, like there's not that many bands anymore. Like it's very hard. Like you got guys that just want to be a one name named after me kind of band. I don't know.
Losers.
Don't know what kind of asshole would want to do that. I have no idea.
I don't know. He said his ego was killed earlier.
Shut the fuck up, Seabass. You're killing our guest. But I mean, you got especially in
Send him a banner with his name on it.
look. I'm getting the other banner eventually. I just got to the way my checking and my savings works.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Hey, I would have guessed that you spelled your name Monday rather than MU, so it's good.
I mean, just so many people said they hated Mondays, so we tried to make it just a little different. It's like, hey, man, we're spelled different. We're not the same.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, you think about like coming up in even like shit. Like imagine if you were this like you're like 30 years old and the same level you are when you were 30 as a drummer, but you're now in 2000.
Right.
Oh my god.
Right.
Like I just like the way musicians can make money now is so infinitely different. One of the things I hope to do is eventually with my Mackie mixer, just a shout out to Mackie, love the DL 32S, loving it. Very, very hefty piece of equipment that I got to get to like get everything like mastered on.
Right.
But the goal eventually from this podcast is I'd love to have a segment where we bring in other bands or we jam and then we can break down our songs.
Yeah.
Like just do like we're doing. Seabass is cutting it up on the cameras in the background.
Right.
And we got everything on a recording software we can go back and kind of edit.
Yeah, man.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to be able to do that nowadays as a band.
Right.
Seabass had a good point of like that piano player you're talking about. That could just play anything.
Yep.
Gets on a live stream.
Right.
Hey guys, just let me know what songs you want me to play. Someone throws him $5. He can stream. Like, what was do you remember?
I was telling you that you can set a command in your chat to where you can pull up a set list basically that people can select from.
Like a menu, right?
Yeah, you can just set a command. It's I don't know, just literally type exclamation point set list, and it's gonna pull up all your songs that you have actively ready to play that day.
Gotcha.
Or so
Wow.
on. And then just you can cycle out 4 or 5 songs every month or so.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the internet has done so much for music. And
I know a lot of people that started doing that over the quarantine too.
Yeah.
I mean, every night there were people going live,
It's just nothing like the crowd.
It's not. No, it's not.
It was to survive.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you make your $20 or whatever that you could make from digital tips, but
I mean, shit, yeah. I mean, it takes time to grow and all that stuff too. But I mean, good God.
yeah.
But I mean, like thinking about like nowadays, like I give a huge shout out to some of the platform kind of places. The gig, one I use is Thumbtack. I've used the Bash. I'm not as big of a fan as the Bash, but it's you pay so much money like a week. Like I think I have mine set at like $45
A week?
a week.
Wow. Okay.
But the thing is, that $45, like I got an $800 gig.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, I've been telling the musicians that I've been talking to, like, Jared, what are you doing at these gigs? Like, they're not going to make me famous.
Right.
But they will keep me fed.
Yeah.
And if I can get those on a Wednesday, holy shit.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's, like, why are you going to deprive yourself of an opportunity?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, it's because you can't figure out how to do it,
Yeah.
like and I mean, when I was in school too, or in college anyway, that was, kind of when YouTube was really starting to get popular, We used to, I mean, it was like, you check out this YouTube video, blah, 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 which is still kind of the same thing. But, I mean, even then, though.
Even then, dude, people these days, these kids in, like, a 9th grader right now, if they went back to the original YouTube pages,
Oh, yeah.
oh my, like, I feel like YouTube should do that one day a year. Like, on their birthday, they should go back to their original YouTube, like, the way the layout was.
I miss it. I kind of miss it.
Or do those PowerPoint videos. It's like, hey, thanks for watching my video.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and it's funny to go back and look at like the very first YouTube video, which is the owner of YouTube at I think the San Diego Zoo at the elephant exhibit or whatever. But even then though, there were so many resources available to us to be able to learn stuff. I remember people that I was in school with that would complain that they weren't getting any better. I'm like, man, that's your fault.
At this point, yeah,
Like, you're in school, there's like all this stuff on YouTube already.
yeah.
You know, within a year of it being around, there was all this music stuff on there.
Well, that one, what was his name? Marty Guitars or
I'm not familiar with that one.
Seabass. Just YouTube how to play Iron Man by Black Sabbath. Because this guy, I give him kudos and an immense amount of credit.
Yeah.
I think it's like Marty Guitars or something like that. I'll look at all the clickbait. There he is. There he is. The
Which
second one. What's his name?
I don't know.
Well, thanks.
Marty Music.
Marty Music. There you go. I can't remember his real name, but dude, that guy, he found that niche of like, I'm gonna just teach guitar on YouTube.
Yep.
And do it for free. But then he got on to like, dude, I mean, he's the guy. Like,
Yeah.
Like nowadays, if you go to look up how to play whatever song, it's probably going to be his video.
Right.
But I hope that he's got his own band and stuff, and he plugs it in there, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a killer musician. But he was that guy that made the first like carved out an edge for him, or carved out a little corner for him to like operate in. And then, I mean, dude, there's so many things like now, like the streaming, and then like what you and me were talking about the other day is the doing like air gigs, where people that I have these lyrics and I know how I want them to sing, I know how I want them to sound,
Right.
but I just don't play guitar or drums or anything.
Right.
So they go out looking for it, and I mean Thumbtack, like I've had a good experience on Thumbtack, even with that. It's hard.
You're talking about an industry too, where some of the greatest musicians of all time, a drummer named Dave Weckl, who you might know of, but he's a fusion guy, jazz guy. He's been around for years, but he can't make his living just purely as a player.
Yeah.
And it's impossible. He's already on the road like 7 or 8 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And in order for him to just make a living as a touring professional, he'd have to be on the road like 11 months out of the year. Who wants to do that? I mean, I would love to go on tour. I want to go. I still haven't been on like the tour bus doing the major arena kind of thing, which I really want to do that, but not for 11 months.
Maybe
every year for the rest of my life. No way.
Maybe that 1 year where you look your wife in the eyes like, look, just 1 year.
She knows. She knows. Like, and honestly, it's probably been more of a blessing at this point to not have that sort of thing now that I have a daughter, especially.
Well, yeah.
But it's not something I'm ruling out. It's not something that I'm basing my whole career on anymore. For a while it was. But
well, the other thing too is, and I'll give Oz, he's one of the other reoccurring co-hosts on the Strange Herd, but
Okay.
Oz, he's a pilot.
Okay.
And if you didn't know that, he'll tell you.
Right.
But the thing is we flew out, me and Seabass, we flew out to do Josh's episode for that podcast. He flew us out to Savannah.
Right.
And I mean, it was supposed to be $200, but then the headwinds, kind of made it difficult for us to go, so they ended up burning more fuel, so it turned into like $400.
Holy crap.
But we worked it out. We worked it out.
How long did it take to get there?
Dude, like an hour and a half.
Really?
Like, what was it, Seabass?
It was about an hour.
Hour and a half.
40,
Yeah,
hour
there.
40 down.
Wow.
When you're taking off and you're landing, that's like 20, 25 minutes of your time.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it takes about 10, 15 minutes because you have to get clear from ground control.
That makes sense, yeah.
So.
I've never flown in a helicopter before, so I don't know.
I did once when I was a child.
Right.
And I didn't remember much of it.
My uncle, like probably one of the smartest guys I've known in my entire life, he just retired as I don't even really know what he did, honestly, because it was that
Secret badass.
hush, but definitely involved in the F-35 fighter jet program. I think, and I don't want to lie about this, but I think he was the head engineer for that program.
Yeah, but he was a bigwig in that. He was like one of the main pieces.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He flies like Cessnas and things like that, and he's been doing it for years. But he would take us up there sometimes, like when we were younger. He'd take us up there.
I think it's going to be really different, and I think this is going to be an advantage for guys like in your position.
Mm-hmm.
Like guys as talented as you are that have the family and everything, they can't really travel outside of like maybe a 2-hour distance drive.
Right.
Yeah. If you can get if Elon Musk can just get those fucking Tesla helicopters that are the little like it's the 4-person drone kind of thing.
Yeah.
They can get that just
Absolutely.
like a Uber like Air.
Yep.
And it's just literally you pay like $100.
Yep.
But you can go. I mean, dude. Of course, the only thing is with the flying. I've noticed with musicians, it's just the biggest expense is just like getting your gear.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've seen the TA or what's it, the ATF like standard like the cargo boxes.
Okay. Right.
There's some kind of acronym that stands for like, hey, you can take this to an airport,
Mm-hmm.
and they put it on the special bin with all the big pieces of equipment like that go on the FedEx planes and stuff.
Right. Right.
And it's I think the big thing is it's just it's pressurized or airtight, so it doesn't like get any like weird shit happening.
Right. Right.
But I mean, shit, that I looked it up last time. I think it was like 250, 300.
Wow.
I mean,
Like per instrument or just?
no, just for like that big stage
Oh,
box.
wow.
But so you can probably fit at least the drum kit,
Yeah.
cymbals, hardware, maybe a couple amps, and
Yeah.
and then on everything else in the second one. So you got to have 2 of those boxes. I
That's
think
actually not really that bad.
well, when you
honestly.
break down like that, it's like, all right, maybe it cost, I don't know, somewhere between like 400 to 600 just to get them flown out there.
Uh-huh.
And I'm spitballing from like when I was really high one night looking at
Yeah.
it.
Right. Yeah.
So, Jamie,
Yeah. Right.
but it's just one of those things where you can ship it out there.
Uh-huh.
Or there's even other, you can literally go to I've thought about like if you just go to FedEx or UPS, but then again, if you just want to break your equipment.
Right.
But I mean, that's the thing is you want to, if somebody wants you to come play in like Arkansas or Nebraska,
Yeah.
from Florida or Georgia, and you got to fly out there.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, I mean, you have like backline companies and stuff like that too, but
but
that's going to be a pretty hefty part of your budget too, you know? And sometimes you never know what you're going to get.
well, I was thinking about this the other day, how dumb it was to have such a big amp as a young musician.
Right.
Like, it's so dumb.
The guitar player that I work with mostly in the Emerald Empire band doesn't even use an amp anymore.
He just has like a head rush or the Line 6 thing.
Yeah. Yep. He just goes straight into the board. Yep.
It's easy.
It is.
It's-
I mean, it's the easiest thing there is.
I mean, and dude, when I was in Vegas, I was watching the bands on Fremont.
Mm-hmm.
All had head rush. Like, bass guy had his own version of it. The guitar players.
Well, I mean, as you get older too, I mean, part of my segue into more teaching is to be more sustainable in the long term.
Yeah.
You know, and if I have to drive to every venue and load in, set up, break down, load out, I'm not going to want to do that when I'm 60 years old.
No.
I don't really want to do it now. You know, like that's the part of the job that I get paid for.
I saw a TikTok that was a drummer setting up and breaking down. I like to do this. This is fun. I like to do this.
It's kind of it's a labor of love like anything else, you know.
Well, I always joke with the band, and every band I've been in is like, help your drummers first and then the women and children. Like, if we're loading in, help them first. And the Night Shift Hometown Youth band, like, they've gotten down pretty good,
Yeah.
especially with how close of a group they are.
Well, you know, you only have to load in your drums one at a time in an Atlanta high-rise hotel before you get a cart.
Yes.
That only has to happen once, you know. Not saying that's ever happened.
Well, did you ever play at the
But-
old Masquerade when they had the lift?
Not the Masquerade, but I did play at Smith's before they had the lift,
Oh my god!
where you loaded in like
that
in the
big
top
back
room.
where
Yep.
the back stairwell. Yeah, that was garbage. Well,
Yep.
the old Masquerade before they turned it into the apartment complexes or whatever, they had this terrifyingly old looking mill like lift, like just like a metal box on with cables.
Right.
And you just put all your equipment in there,
Yep.
and it just. You're just like, if it falls, it falls.
Yeah, you know, I mean, at that point, I have insurance for all my stuff anyway.
Yeah, I mean
But-
that's a whole other thing. If you're gonna really, if I like talking to other musicians that are trying to make money doing it, and it's like, okay, well, are you trying to make money doing this to be like famous, or are you trying to do this to like
Right.
make money?
Right.
Because if you're doing both, it's possible too. but you just got to be very careful about how you spend your time.
I don't think that. I mean, I'm probably way off about this, but I feel like most famous musicians, like, you know, just to pull a name out of the hat, like John Mayer, right? I mean, you could use anybody for this example. I don't think their first goal was to be famous.
No,
I think their first goal was to just make music.
they're just like, I want to make the most undeniably good music.
Yeah,
Like-
the best product they can make, and that, I mean, Taylor Swift. I don't think started out wanting to be a famous person. Maybe she did. I don't know, but I think
My money is on she did.
She started out to be as a singer songwriter, you know, and someone had the good forethought to tell her to write her own music, right?
As far as I can tell, I have not heard that about Taylor Swift, that she doesn't write her. Like, I'll give her credit. She writes her own music.
She
from
does.
everything I say.
Yep.
Everything I've heard or had anyone say to me about her, that's something that is amazing and absolutely beautiful.
Anybody that does that automatically has my respect.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so
Especially for how long?
yeah, right. And so another example of a band.
You have
that-
something to say, Spa?
I was saying, hadn't she technically switched genres like 4 times?
Yeah,
as well?
She did country, hip hop, or pop, and then what was it? It wasn't
kind
like-
of like rockish now, I guess, in a way.
I feel like it was. She had like a much more pop, and then this is much more like girl rock.
Yeah, right.
And I don't mean to be as sexist as I normally am, but shut the fuck up.
We're in a safe place. It's okay.
No, we're not.
No, we're not at all.
But I mean,
Remember, it's only your name up there right now.
Right.
They'll never find us. We're not live, so we can't get swatted. God, if that happens one more time on Tim Pool's podcast, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Oh no.
But I mean, but yeah, the thing is a lot of people want to shit on her because she just writes songs about her breakups and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
she sold out, an entire fucking stadium.
Right. And she never tried to be anything other than what she was. You
Yeah.
know, like I think that's kind of, you know, like with Metallica, you know, where they have been.
Just hold that for a second.
Okay.
I gotta take a piss.
Okay. Me too. Yeah, it was good.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm glad. Like, I was worried. We all, for the people that, like I say, those 4 Indian children that listen to this podcast.
The young children.
It's like it's so funny. Like in my ears, I'm hearing that echo effect. But we just checked, so hopefully the audio.
Yeah,
it
no.
sounded good.
Yeah.
Sounded fine.
Yeah.
But Metallica.
Yeah.
So,
So you know, not trying to get sued by Lars here, you know, because he loves to do that kind of stuff. But they, you know, you start out.
You are a
as,
much better drummer than Lars.
I wouldn't go that far, but thank you. But you know, you start out as like a heavy metal, thrash metal band, you know, against the system and all that, and then you just
Now they're all like, take
accept
the
it.
vaccine.
Yeah. You know, so it's like that's kind of the definition of selling out. But if I'm always that way, if I'm always kind of like I'm cool with whatever, then
Yeah.
you know, you just who you are. And so I kind of feel that way about people like Taylor Swift who I'm not a huge fan. You know, Melissa makes me listen to it sometimes when we're drinking or whatever. But like I don't there's a lot worse stuff out there.
I think the thing about Taylor Swift is that she, being a female, she just knows how the female brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, like a lot of guys make fun of how her lyrics are. There you were, you're wearing jeans. I saw you leaning against the soda machine.
Right.
And it's just like, guys like, I saw a bad bitch sitting there.
Right.
With
Yeah.
titties in the air. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
it's
different.
so much more of like and like not from like a woke thing or whatever, but so much more of an objectifying thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Where you know it's more about the outward stuff. Although you know you get great songs like Neon Moon.
Yeah.
From Brooks and Dunn. You know, Watch Your Broken Dreams dancing out of the beams of a neon moon. Like it's just like, oh god, it just hits you. You know.
Oh, dude, there's Chris Stapleton's Whiskey Sunrise. That song, I was having a real hard time with the liquor,
Yeah.
and then like I think Josh Moore sent me that, and I was like, damn. Well, this wraps up how I'm feeling.
Yes.
And I was like, I think that's when I did my first sober October. Not had to be before that, 'cause that song came out like 2 years ago.
It's actually kind of nice to not be like under the influence of stuff all the time.
dude, I've told her. Me and Seabass have a mutual friend
Mm-hmm.
that loves the yeah
Yeah.
the ganja.
Yep.
As much as anybody.
Sure.
But I mean, I just get in that habit of like smoking too much,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, what am I doing?
It's easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. Or like somebody that that used to play bass in my band, who will remain nameless.
Okay.
For doctoral reasons.
We all know.
But I mean, he told me the best piece of advice when he stopped.
Mm.
Like, he was like, dude, you just spend all the time chasing that first high. Because the first time I got really high was awesome.
Yeah.
It was Snowmageddon, like 14. Yeah, 14.
At least that was when I was here for.
Yeah. Dude, it was awesome. Like, we went over to this friend's house, smoked in the backyard, and then I had smoked once before, and you know that some people when they first try smoking it, they get like a little body high, but they don't get the whoo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know why I described it like that, but I was like so ready to like start having like what I would now know as an LSD experience.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'd been told marijuana was like.
Right.
Like
because it's classified as a hallucinogen.
yeah,
But it's not really.
I mean, you have to smoke a lot of dabs.
Yeah, and by that point you're just ready to go to sleep. You know, like it's not really, you know, but
it's not
like
fun.
it's another kind of thing too where it's really dangerous because like you know, I hope none of my students watch this ever. but if I get stoned, like not like to the point of like falling asleep,
Yeah.
but if one were to get stoned that much, right?
Yeah.
That person more than likely can still function.
Yeah.
Maybe they may be a little slower. They might not be quite as
Like
talkative, but
that 2 hits of a one hitter.
yeah,
And you're just like, hey,
yeah.
I can tell what's going on, but I'm not freaking out about everything right
Now,
now.
if I drink that much,
Oh God.
I'm done. There's
Yeah.
nothing I can do but sit on the ground and crawl around with my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like, you know, I keep that both of those things as far away from her as possible. She
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
really know what they are right now anyway. But it's not great to have them around. You know.
You know, it's funny. I actually had a friend. Her older brother used to tell stories about how he's like, Dad, do you remember how you used to chew on those candles? And he's like, what are you talking about? And he like when he was a tiny kid, he would like he caught his dad one time on the back porch smoking a joint.
Right.
And he's like, what are you doing with that candle? He's like, oh, putting it out, putting it out, putting it out. But he somehow remembered that. But I think
one of my teachers actually, he's got 2 kids, and he was saying one time he was out back with his son, and one of the neighbors was chiefing up in the backyard, you know, and his son goes, "Daddy, I smell burgers."
well,
Someone's cooking burgers.
and they're gonna be damn good burgers.
And his dad, who you know is who also partakes, he's like, "Yeah, pretty good burgers."
But I mean, like it was just so funny because you don't realize until you get to that point
Yeah.
that you get up here, excuse me, and then you get the tolerance, so you start smoking more to get to the not even I won't even say it's close,
Right.
but you just try to chase that, and then you get into the habit.
Well, and it's so easy in our industry too. You know,
People put them in the tip jar.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Thank you, random stranger from the 2-3 weeks ago.
You know, when I was living in Florida, there regular smoking cigarettes.
Oh God, all over Florida
was a big thing. When I moved here, nobody that I worked with smoked. Nobody. You know, I was the only person who would go outside for a smoke break in the break, and that was a big kind of distinction. You know, so I don't know. Now I've heard that the booger sugar is pretty high, pretty good up here. But again,
I'd be too terrified.
I don't. Yeah, no. Especially nowadays with all the
God.
fentanyl, there's no way. But I've never been into that. Which is, you know, whatever. No hate on you if you'd like to partake every once in a while. It's fine. We're all
Your
adults.
life.
Yeah, your life. You can melt your brain however you want.
Dude.
But I mean, it's really easy. You know, I saw a lot of that when I was on the road with certain bands that I was in. Where like
I think it's especially with the booger sugar.
yeah,
It
yeah.
goes hand in hand with the drinking.
There was a lot of that going on, and I mean there was drinking, there was all that, there was, and I'm not trying to say like I'm some kind of prude, and I don't think that exists. It absolutely does, but is that really what you want to concern yourself with? Is that really what you want to be around?
Right. Yeah.
If you're around that kind of thing, you're gonna get into it eventually. It's just it comes with it.
Yeah.
That's how all those guys. It happened to them. I mean, think about like one of my favorite drummers of all time, Steve Gadd.
Yeah.
Coked out of his mind half the time.
It kind of makes sense when you look back at it.
Yeah, it does. Right.
It's like, how do you play that fast?
But you know what though? Like, and like you hear about things like or bands like Fleetwood Mac.
Oh
who
yeah,
were,
I was
like,
about to say they're
stoned on recording, and like that is not a downer kind of drug. And that their music, at least with Nixon and Buckingham, they were a little more chill. They weren't quite as blues or rock influences as they were before. And Mick Fleetwood, sitting there blasted off his mind, playing like, God, it's like I actually really respect that.
I mean, dude, that's got to be like the Flash.
Yeah,
running around, just like.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are so slow, but I'll hang with you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Where or like when during the quarantine, I would partake a little bit in the I would just drink. I got kind of more into whiskey.
A lot of people.
So I would still keep it somewhat manageable. That thing, I don't feel like I have necessarily an addictive personality, but I know it's really easy to kind of fall into that.
Habits, yeah.
So I would practice what's called state dependent memory. So I'd take the bottle down there with me, and I'd start playing sober. I'd pour myself a drink and drink over the course of 20-30 minutes, and then play again, and like the notes would kind of get a little more out of place, and then like play for a little bit more and pour another drink, finish that one. You're like, all right, I can't.
Why is the snare drum moving?
Got to keep it together, though, right? So you kind of keep it together. So I just I was kind of like, well, now from the hours of 10 to 2, right?
Yeah,
we're normal working hours for us.
Oh, dude,
I'm just gonna go downstairs and play and drink.
I mean, dude, I just I think about that, like how my sleep schedule is.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice part about playing gigs is that you get to get out, and I'm such a social person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I literally do grab energy off of people when I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's like when someone starts dancing in front of the band, even if it's just two people, like that just little bit will ignite the fire.
Yeah.
And then it's just like then you get off stage, like you said, like around 2, and if you haven't been drinking, you're still kind of hyped up, and then it's just so hard to go down.
You can't go. I mean, last night I didn't have a gig, but I woke up at 6 this morning to go play at church. And it's the kind of the worst thing when you do have a gig. I did this for years in Jacksonville too. I play with Saltwater Grass at Fly's Tie until 2 in the morning, and then since we knew the owners, he'd pour us shots of his special liquor for 2 or 3 hours afterwards, and I have to get up at like 7 and go play at church. I'm not playing it just anywhere. I'm playing in the house of God. They're
not. So at least at the house of God, they're not tipping you with tequila shots.
Not usually.
Not usually.
The wine sometimes you can kind of knock it back, the sacrament. But and it hits you different now. But like when you get home from a gig, you know what I'm talking about. Like you can't just go right to bed. You got to stay up for at least an hour.
Yeah.
So it's like I get home, and now these wedding gigs nowadays they don't end too late. Every once in a while they go to like 11.
Because usually they want to go off and do the wedding.
Well, that and also the venues close at a certain time.
True.
They're not getting done at 2 in the morning.
And the event staff want to go home too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and dude, this being a wedding musician. It's not the kind of gig where you show up. For a 10 o'clock hit, you show up at 9.
Yeah,
that's not how it works.
No.
You show up at 2 for a 7 o'clock hit. So, and that's a lot of trust that they put in you to stay sober for that long.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the best corporate gigs, and I don't want to put people on game, as the young kids say.
Oh, is that what it is now?
Let me put you on some game.
Okay, I don't know.
Reaching out to office managers on LinkedIn. Like for big companies.
Yes.
It's like, hey, I saw you guys are a part of this organization. Like the one I was playing at, I'll keep the company's name out of the filth. Since they're great people, man.
Right.
But the guy Kyle that booked me, he's a great dude and stuff. But the funniest part was they got a hotel for me on Amelia Island.
Nice.
It was a beautiful place.
That's awesome.
I played two or three gigs, but the first one was like the kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
So I got up and played for like 30 minutes from 8:00 a.m. to 8:30.
Right.
And it was awesome. People were enjoying it. I played Here Comes the Sun to kind of, because everyone had been out drinking the night before.
Right.
So I knew they were hungover. And then I played Cheeseburger in Paradise.
It's kind of like the like when I was playing with Saltwater Grass at these festivals, we every once in a while we get a choice spot, you know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, with that level band, you're playing at like 11 a.m. on Saturday, when everybody wants you to just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's like,
because
dude, my
they're
head-
still awake from last night, so
Yeah.
they don't want to hear it, you know.
Dude, I've only gotten to play a few festivals, but those are so like organic.
They're fun because at least when I was doing them, they were still owned by a small company.
Yeah.
I think they've since been bought by Live Nation,
Mm.
or the park has anyway. But when I was doing those festivals, they were still very, small business oriented, and we knew a lot of the people that ran that too.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of leeway. Your badge was only good for one day, but get back there every day if you wanted to.
If you wanted to.
It was if you knew when the right guys were working, and you just feel like such a rock star. It's like I'm getting paid $100 for this, but I'm back here hanging out with Humphreys McGee or Bonnie Raitt kicked me out of her backstage portion one time.
Awesome.
It was the artist tent,
Mhm.
and so in her writer, she has to have everybody like no one's allowed to be backstage except for her people. That's her thing.
Okay.
So I went to the bar or the tent. There was one band still playing. They had like 5 minutes left in their set, and Bonnie Raitt was next. And so I was like, okay, I'll check her out for a bit. Because she's amazing, But I was like, let's go walk around, The next stage would have been easier to get to through the artist tent. So I literally went in there, grabbed a beer, walked out, decided that I wanted to go back into the tent to walk around, and the security guard was like, "You can't go in there." And I was like, I literally you saw me walk out of here. Like, that I'm playing here this weekend. What's the deal? And he's like, you can't go back here. Bonnie Raitt doesn't want anybody back here. And I was like, all right. So you walk around, but still, though, you kind of feel like you're more important than you actually are.
Yeah.
Because you're just playing this like literally afternoon slot for 1 hour. Where there's like 10 people there. But you still got the same kind of privileges as the other guys do,
Well, and that's the cool thing too. I mean, like I was saying with the like messaging the people in those big companies.
Yeah.
There's somebody that has the job of being on the fun committee, and that person, like the 5 or 10 gigs I've gotten in the last like 9 months that were corporate gigs.
Yes.
They all paid over $500.
Yep.
And it was solo.
Yep.
And then it's like, dude, they're a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
They have a like what's above platinum, that like
Diamond.
that diamond, like, here, I'll pay with my company card, and a ting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It ain't their money. They're
Yeah.
willing to spend it.
No limit on that either.
But dude, just
open.
reach out, like, get a good, like, I tell a couple artists that are like trying to do this,
Uh-huh.
where it's like, hey, if you want to make money on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
well, yeah, the company's going to fly out to this convention.
Yep.
Like the last one I played was at America's Mart.
Mhm.
I'm forgetting the name of the company. I'll figure it out later. Maybe I'll get somebody to put a thing right. Maybe like right.
It's probably
right
a good thing
here.
you don't name names.
I mean, they were wonderful. I mean, and they had a bunch of showrooms on the America's Mart like during the convention.
Uh-huh.
And dude, it's like you just go and you play there, and it's a great vibe. You get a bunch of those perks.
Yeah.
But like you just reach out and like
Yeah.
show them like, hey, like
And this is a reason I think that you and I work so well together, is that we both kind of think the same way, or similarly anyway. Because when I was in high school, or even middle school with my, I had a jazz band on my own, just a quartet, and I would call places like Starbucks, and I'd be like, hey, can we just come set up in the corner and play for a couple hours for tips, and they give us free drinks and we could play for tips,
shit, getting free drinks at Starbucks, you can play all day.
It was awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we had a great time. We played a lot of music, and I learned a lot about just playing gigs and just how to be a musician, and I learned a lot of stuff from that, so that when I did get into the professional situation, I was able to take what I had learned on the gigs that I was booking myself. You
Yeah.
know? But I would email like city planners in the government.
Yeah.
You know, and just like, what's some weird random angle where I can sort of get a leg up. You
Yeah.
know, it's music. I don't think is necessarily competitive by nature,
Yeah.
but there
no.
are competitive parts about it, right?
Yeah, you want to be the best show. You
Yeah.
want yeah.
I think since I've gotten older now, my focus has become more like competition with myself and not to be complacent in what I'm playing or how I'm playing or my career. Really, it's hard to walk away from money gigs. You know, I've been working with the Emerald Empire Band over 10 years now, which is the longest I've worked anywhere.
Can you explain a little bit more if people don't know what Empire?
Sure. Yeah. Emerald Empires is a wedding corporate band here in Atlanta. We don't operate necessarily as like a set.
Yeah, because that's
set
the
band.
unique part about you guys.
We're kind of more of a collective.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat lead singer driven because, you know, in this situation, the clients are hiring the singer,
And the
kind
singer
of.
puts the band together.
In a way.
Yeah.
Right. So
Was it kind of like you guys just have like a? I know with some of the churches and stuff, they have like the what's it called? It's like viewpoint or something like that. There's like a church app.
yeah, planning center.
Planning center. That's what it was.
It's very similar to that.
yeah, you just like you put something out there, and whoever's the first to respond, like, I'm available.
Yeah. In some ways, it's that way. What I mean more so about it being more lead singer driven is that within your profile in the system, you have all the database of at least all the regional musicians, right? So in my database, I have all the Florida musicians, all the Georgia musicians, Tennessee, I think North Carolina is in there, and I think Alabama too, because I'm on their list too. So you can rate how. Now most people I don't have any ratings for at all because it's like it's fine, it's great. You know, you're a good player. Put me on a gig with you, that's fine. And I don't have time to go through there and rate every single person. But the singers are really the ones where the preferences are sort of taken into account, you know, more so than the other musicians.
Do you think it's because they're like the spearhead kind of thing?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's because they have a set list, right? So like there are certain singers on the list that are more geared towards like country music, and then more singers that are geared more towards hip hop, more that are geared towards pop. You know, one of the guys that I work with on a regular basis, his name is Stephen Cashwell. He's an awesome songwriter too. Does a lot of stuff with Christian music, but not in CCM. It's like a singer-songwriter Christian kind of vibe. It's really cool. His set list is very eclectic, so he needs people that can play many different styles, you know. And me and him have been playing together long time. I mean, 8 or 9 years at this point.
Yeah.
So we just know each other super well, and I help kind of off the tunes. I know what's coming up next. So he's like, "Yo, I want Nico on the gig because he knows
He
my
knows the
flow.
set list,
He knows
yeah.
the vibe. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot easier if he's on the gig, even with like a bass player. You know, they threw a bass player in there a few months ago. That was his first gig, and he threw him in with us because we know what we're doing, right? Like this is perfectly fine. So if I need to deal with this over here, then I can deal with that.
Oh yeah.
Because I already know what's going on, right? So in that way, it's a little more driven towards the preferences. Unless you're a complete asshole to people, you're going to be pretty high on the preferences list.
Man, speaking of that, I remember, like, we tried to do the hometown youth podcast for the band that I play with mostly, and just totally missed an audio glitch, and so the audio's garbage. So we're probably gonna have to reshoot it. But
Shoot, it sucks.
I mean, it was no one's fault. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just
it just
technical
happens.
shit, yeah.
But they were talking about an individual
Sure.
that kind of took advantage of him.
Okay.
From what they had said, he was getting paid somewhere between 500
Okay.
to, what did they say, 2,000, I think it was.
That was the highest number they said. Yeah, I think on average it was
They didn't
around
really know.
5 to 8.
Yeah, they didn't know right off what it was because he never told them.
Right.
He just told them, hey, there's a gig in Mississippi. If you want to come play it with me, let's
Sure.
go.
Sure.
So they drive out there, and they didn't even get the tips.
What?
Like,
Like they tipped the band, but he didn't tip.
No,
he didn't tip the
That's
musicians.
the only thing they did.
Oh,
split.
yeah. Sorry, that's the
They-
only
he
thing.
kept all the show from all the revenue from the actual place, but they just split the tip. So basically, they drove 3 states over for
Tips.
$30.
Holy crap!
Yeah, I was not happy. And
That'd be the last time.
I mean, it's just I mean,
I don't get into trashing or shaming people publicly, but I would do that.
I'd
for
be like,
that.
dude, like you just took advantage. Oh, I gave him a free weekend in a cabin.
I don't care about that.
It's like, dude,
I can't write that on my mortgage check.
yeah.
I can't tell the cashier at Publix that.
And
They're like, oh, that's cool. Your total is $200.
yeah. Well, it's like maybe I'll give the guy some leniency because the guys at the point weren't really playing music to play music for a
No.
living. But that doesn't like at the end of the day, it's like, dude, pay
No.
people.
You're being straight ripped off at that point. I
Yeah.
mean,
Don't be like some of those shitty bar owners that just want to pay the band $150 and say it's exposure.
you make your own worth in this business.
Oh, yeah.
You are the one that says, I am not playing. Like I have a price, which will go unnamed for now, but
Oh yeah.
I have a price, right? And if you don't hit that price, I'm not just not going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say anything more egotistical like I was about to. I'm glad I caught
Caught
myself.
yourself.
But at this point, like there are more important things to me than playing some bar gig. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm here with you right now, and this is a great experience. This is a lot of fun for me, right? But if I wasn't here, I'd be at home with my family.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to take me away from my family, you better have a damn good reason for it,
Oh yeah.
you know? So mostly that's money, right?
I mean,
we live in the real world. We know what it is. I don't think either of us got into this business to make money.
see, when I was younger and I didn't realize how much shit cost.
Yeah, right.
Like before I caught that disease called bills and taxes. Like, oh my God. I mean, my prices are going up after like this weekend because I played a gig at a tavern.
Yep.
And a gentleman came up to me afterwards, and I'd seen him there a couple times, and he's like, "Dude, I've been coming up here for a while. I've seen probably like 8 or 9 other musicians to come up here,
Mm-hmm.
and you're definitely like, if not the best, one of the top."
Right.
And I'm like, "Yeah." I try to take everything with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Taco Bell. Oh, chicken quesadilla.
It's always great at the time. It's never great the next day.
Oh God, when you hard night of drinking, and then like your friend that didn't drink takes you to Taco Bell, and then you wake up, you see the wrappers, you feel the heartburn.
Yeah.
You're like fuck.
Yep.
But dude, where was I going with that?
Well, even Taco Bell nowadays is like $40. You go
Yeah,
there
no,
for
I think
2 tacos.
I think after the pandemic, they're like, oh, these guys will pay that much. For
Well, that it probably didn't help that they just pumped a shit ton of artificial money into the system. That didn't help either.
not saying anything. Yeah, just saying.
There are lots of reasons for that, which we won't get into right now. But shit's expensive, man. I mean, I can't. I live when I was living in Jacksonville, I could live off of $1,000 a month.
Yeah,
You know, my rent was $200.
I mean, kind of I think about it in the. Like you go on Indeed or ZipRecruiter and you start looking at, like, in my career when I did the 9 to 5s, it was all sales jobs.
Yeah.
Just because, all right, it's 9 to 5 solid, and most of the gigs anyway are on the weekends.
Right.
So I know my guaranteed weekends, because doing retail you got to work on the weekends.
Mhm.
You might have to close on a weekend.
Yep.
And I've done that, but once you get to that point where it's like, if I would highly suggest every musician get a E-Trade, Robinhood, Webull, any of those investment
100%.
apps.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, just if you get the QR code, and then what you do is that you just pump everything in that from your Cash App, Venmo into that like a bank account that is attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then do you just let like tip money grow for you?
Yeah.
I think right now I use Robinhood,
Mm-hmm.
and people make fun of me. I'm like, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
My brokerage account has a 4.65% interest rate.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it's like, yeah, you can't go into a building and demand your money.
Right.
And it goes up and shit. But
Right.
right now, over like the last like 5 years, I think I got about like $9,000 in there.
Well, diversification.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you buy commercial property as a musician if you have the money? Right? why wouldn't you buy an asset that will grow for you? buying our house, buying
Yeah.
my house was, the best investment I've made, because that is it has appreciated in value a lot.
Yeah, especially after
And I'm paying for it right now on my mortgage, which is fine. It'll go down at some point too, but hopefully, right? But I when I talk to my wife about this kind of stuff too, it's not so much about like my career as a musician. It's just my career as a person.
Yeah.
There's a drummer. His name is Kevin Hayden. He was like one of the first like gospel, like real big gospel chops kind of guys. Great drummer. He doesn't play a whole lot anymore professionally, but he does this. Are we
No, I keep having this like fear that the recording software. Is like,
okay, yeah.
I'm just like just checking it's still rolling. Okay, good.
Yeah, I see that here. So he talks about just kind of the lie that touring musicians like to tell about the life.
Oh yeah.
And so this is where the bubble bursts,
Mhm.
right? Because you're like, man, you see these guys playing at Madison Square Garden and all these great places, and then you realize that like they're going home to their rented crappy apartment with 4 other people in it, people literally living on air mattresses on the ground, and they're taking all these pictures about like, thank my sponsors, I'm here in Vienna. It's like, yeah, okay, that's great, but like you have nothing to come home to. You have nothing,
Man.
there. And I'm not saying that that's every touring musician.
Yeah, no,
right?
I agree.
But the touring gigs, they don't pay
Like what you think.
No, not at all. They pay as much, maybe a little less than wedding gigs do.
Well, I mean, you think about what kind of tier of musician, like if you're a headliner at the Tabernacle,
Yeah.
or something like that in Atlanta, like Seabass, can you check real quick? What's the seat capacity for the Tabernacle? Tabernacle. There it is. 2,600. Okay.
Wow.
So, do a quick calculator for me. 2,600 times, like, what do you think? $50 is like an average ticket there. 45.
Depends on the artist, I guess.
I'd say like a artist that's probably playing there on like a Thursday night.
Yeah, probably $30, $45. Something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
2,600 times. Let's do 35. Let's say the tickets are $35, so that's $91,000.
That's insane.
But then you think about paying out the sound engineer,
The venue.
the venue.
I mean, on average, you should
Get a little
lose
bit closer to your mic, Steve.
You should lose somewhere between 30 to 50% of your revenue towards your production and everything.
Yeah, the
Right.
lightings, the
Right.
Yeah,
the venue.
Yeah, the actual venue, maintenance, your
So,
staff and crew.
Take
so
50% off the top. You're not even splitting that amount of money. you know?
Yeah.
So, apart from that, though, the artist is making shit tons. I mean, Taylor Swift on this tour, speaking of her from earlier, she
Yeah.
makes like $13 million a night.
Oh, dude, I think
13 million.
I think I heard Lady Gaga when she broke her hip back in like 2010. I think
Uh-huh.
it was. She still had just so much revenue from her merch.
Yeah.
and she was still making millions of dollars, not even touring.
Now that's the other thing too. That
Merch
that,
is a huge game.
There it is. And so you talk about diversification. Right now in my business, I'm in a place where I'm beginning to find more students than what I have time for.
Yeah,
So I need to find teachers now.
yeah.
Like good qualified piano teachers mostly. You'd be surprised how many. If you're a musician and you don't play piano, you're an idiot.
I am an idiot.
Or
Nico has
or
told me.
guitar, because guitar
I
is
agree with piano over guitar.
yes, 100%. Piano is the entire all of music in one instrument.
Well, it's the grand staff is that
Yeah.
what it's called?
You learn how to read both clefs of music, bass. Well, there's more than 2, but the 2 main ones.
Yeah.
right? Treble and bass clef. You get music knowledge, harmony, melody, rhythm is all included in the same instrument.
Yeah,
If you can play through like my first piano book, you can basically teach, right? If you're a good enough musician, right? Because concepts transcend instruments. It's not, being a good drummer, you use the exact same idea as being a good piano player.
yeah,
It all boils down to technique, time, sound. It's all the same thing. It's just a different way of doing it.
yeah.
You know enough about music and enough about the theory of playing the piano, then it's just about practicing and just getting good at it. And like I have been able to supplement many. I mean, I have an entire day full of piano students.
Wow.
on my own.
Yeah.
And that would be money and people that I wouldn't be making or influencing if I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
You know? So the more that you know how to do, I always kind of used to view doing other things other than drumming as like cheating on my spouse in a way. You know?
I can follow you.
Where it's like, no, like I play drums. That's what I do, and that's what I'm always going to do. And I would kind of look down on people that played other instruments and wrote their own songs and all that because you're a drummer, you know?
Yeah.
But like as you get older, hopefully you mature more. And this is another part of the teaching aspect of music. If you're a player, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
You know, you find that so often in jazz.
I can see that.
In the jazz style. I mean, drummers especially.
Oh yeah.
Like jazz drummers as a fraternity is the most like weirdest, close knit group of people, and you wouldn't think that because there's only one drummer in a band. You can have a band with 2 guitar players, multiple horn players, two keys players.
Yeah.
But there's only one drummer in a band unless you're playing like Allman Brothers music.
Allman Brothers, Genesis. I think they had like 2 drum sets.
They did, but that was for when I'm sure they did double drums too, but that was more so for when Phil would go sing. And then actually, the guy that played drums for them, Chester Thompson, amazing, underrated player. But the more that you know how to do in music and outside of it, like I tell Melissa all the time that if we ever came into enough money, which actually I should probably talk to your roommate about this just for overall ideas, but to buy like one of those self-service car washes.
Yeah.
Like not any crazy thing.
So no
literally that one that you drive into and you do it all yourself. You spray it down. You got the soap and all that. Like I don't know anything about upkeep on those kind of places. I don't know anything about it at all.
Yeah.
Right? But I know that something like that I don't have to be there every day.
Yeah.
It's not like an office I got to go to.
Yeah. If you can make enough money to pay someone to be there.
Yeah, and I mean those places half the time don't even have attendance.
Yeah, at most they have like maybe 1 or 2 people just to like spray your car as you're going in.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm not even talking
about
that.
like the brick one.
The brick one, literally, you drive
yeah.
in, you hose it down, like you do it all. There's the
little coin slot for the soap and stuff. I got you. Yeah, that one, something like that would be awesome.
So something like that where you don't really
6:30.
Where you don't really have to what
my alarm.
6:30?
Okay, fun fact about one of my little quirks.
Oh no.
For ever, I don't know when I started doing this, but I would always set an alarm for 6:30.
Okay.
And I was because I get carried away.
I see.
And it's like, hey, it's 6:30. If you were going to do anything tonight, you should probably start getting ready to do it.
I get you.
And it is, so it's just a little thing, but every now and then it's like, Jared, what the fuck? What, like some of the guys, 6:30.
Right.
But
I love that. Well, at least you always know when it's 6:30.
I mean, it's just like because if you don't have plans to go out by night, or if you get carried away and you're like, hey, you have 30 minutes to get to your 7:00 gig now,
right?
Which is I don't know if you've ever had this anxiety, but this happens to me whenever I don't have a Friday or Saturday gig.
Yeah.
And then I get a random phone number calling me.
Yeah.
Around like that time, I'm like,
yeah. Like last night, I knew that I didn't have anything, so I was like, I think I'm okay.
I think I'm good.
I don't know. Like prior to the quarantine, I hadn't had a Saturday off in years. Yeah. So it always felt weird when I if I did, it was that exact same thing. Like, what am I forgetting to do? There's something I'm forgetting.
There's something that's tickling the back of my mind that I should be somewhere and do something.
Right.
Like it's just, oh my god.
And that I think comes just from,
ladies and gentlemen, that is straight vodka, by the way.
Moonshine. I think that too has a lot to do with just the nature of our business.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have an office to go to really,
Yeah,
so,
the office is a stage that may or may not be the same size as it was the night before.
Right. Or it might just be a dirt floor. It might be outside in the middle of some field in Georgia, which is a true story. I played in the Athens area, in the middle of July in somebody's field with no cover over it. And so we played until 9:00.
Yeah.
And then they wanted us to break for an hour.
Come back and
to set off fireworks. And then they wanted us to play another hour. And that last hour,
brutal.
I was seriously contemplating my life at that point. I was like,
why am I here?
I'm gonna strangle someone.
Dude.
Like this is
It's
This is
miserable.
bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I feel like a lot of people just don't take into account how it took a lifetime of practicing to get as good as it is to where you actually would pay someone to show up and play.
Yeah.
And then, like, on top of that, you want to pay a band $800 for a 4 or 5 piece band.
Right.
Well, that's you have on stage almost like probably somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 of
Yeah.
equipment.
Right.
And you're like, you want to pay us that?
And a combined experience of 60. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20
Yeah.
years.
It's
So, like, you know, a combined experience of over 60, 70, 80 years, you
Yeah.
know, of people that don't need to rehearse, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Don't need to. It's fun to.
should
but
we should
sometimes it depends on the gig. Emerald Empire never rehearses.
really.
Never.
Well, I mean, in that kind of situation, they're expecting hey, you know the set list, it's your homework,
Yes.
and it's
That band actually was developed in Australia first.
real.
Yeah.
I
So
wanna-
the parent company is called International Musicians League. So they have
Sounds kind of cool.
here, England, and the surrounding areas, and then Australia
Yeah.
that I know of. And it was developed around this particular the owner of or the founder of the company was touring a lot in Australia, and noticed that he's from there, and he would be out for 2 or 3 months or whatever, however long his tour was, and then he wouldn't have anything to do when he got home. So he started booking out wedding gigs,
Yeah.
for 6 months or a year in advance.
Yeah.
When he knew that he'd be home, and he knew how much he made on tour, so he was going to make sure to pay everybody at least what he was making on tour.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to lowball anyone.
Yeah.
Pay the guys that did more a little extra, but everybody makes a certain amount. And so what you find in this type of band is that it's comparable to a touring gig. You get into a situation like with my own not personal wedding, but the wedding that I booked myself.
Mhm.
You didn't have to pay a parent company. Right?
Yeah.
Like you paid me.
It's like
And then I paid my
I
guys.
divvy it out. Yeah.
Right, which I was able to give them extra than what I would have made on a regular Emerald Empire gig,
Yeah.
because it's just me.
Like, I think of Bruce Springsteen. Like, I remember hearing behind the music on. Remember when VH1 did that?
Yeah,
Like, one of the coolest things for me on that was just they were talking about how Bruce Springsteen, like at the end of the night when they were playing wherever they were, he was the reason they called him the boss. Is because he would get the check,
Yep.
and he would divvy it out, and it was like, but I mean, dude, like, I hate that perception that musicians have is they're not business oriented.
right.
It's like, dude, our business is just it's an art form, so it is a little bit more avant-garde.
It is, yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, things cost. Things cost.
Yeah.
And artists have to eat just like everyone else does. And no, I don't have to do this for a living, but I want to.
I want to. I want to
So-
find a way to do it.
If you want to do something, why not
Yeah.
do it?
Because I mean, that's the thing is doing the weddings, the corporate gigs, any kind of little whatever single solo guitar player singer gigs you can do. If you can get something like that on a Whiskey Wednesday at a tavern or a bar or something like that, and then you got your full band Friday, Saturday night booked, it's insane to think about it. Like, I used to think about it well, it's about if I'm playing a 3-hour show, usually I get there an hour beforehand and then try to leave within an hour afterwards.
Right.
So I mean, you're doing 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think about that. So 15 hours a week
Right.
for 3 gigs.
Right.
And you get if you get I've had gigs when I was starting out where it's they're paying $200 a piece.
Yeah.
And so it's all right, you made $600 this week.
Right.
And I think I've done the math on if you can average $600 a week, that's $31,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so if you can keep most of that, get your LLC, get all the tax stuff found out,
Right.
but you start dumping that back into it.
Yeah.
And you just dude, the best piece of advice a friend's dad that owns a lot of businesses gave me is the United States is not the American dream is not for individuals. It's for businesses.
Interesting.
Because I mean, you think about the tax code and all these, people talk about how the billionaires and the businesses don't pay their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, for the majority of the part, that's true. There's some debate back and forth on why that is. I mean,
Sure.
there's good and bad.
Yeah. Right.
I think capitalism is good, but it does have its dark side.
Sure.
If you're a morally inept person.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a good
Definitely.
person, you can make it happen.
Yep.
But I mean, you get into that thing where you start looking at it differently, and you just think about how you can make enough money to get where you need to get, but it's only so much.
Well, that's my thing about that system of economics.
Yeah.
Is that you are able to do that.
Yeah.
You are able to learn a skill.
But like what I'm saying is like I feel like I hate how it sounds like I'm one of those crypto bros or one of the dudes on TikToks. Like,
Right.
if you use tax code 6.4 ...
Uh-huh.
you can never have to pay taxes again if you do this. But I mean, there are some legitimate things when you reach out to tax experts. Like if you make it serious,
Mm-hmm.
like I mean, some people are so blown away. Like they're like, "So you do this all over?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a way. If I can find people like you that booked me,
Right.
there's others.
Right.
And then you got to work it. I mean, like
Well,
a sales job.
and you being a singer, songwriter, guitar player,
There is a
you
little
have
bit more-
that advantage
Yeah.
of being able to go do a gig by yourself.
I mean, dude, I think it'd be really fun. Oh, this would be kind of cool if we did like a surprise park jam.
Yeah,
Like just when it gets a lot cooler.
absolutely,
Yeah, when it's a lot cooler outside.
100%.
But we just go out there, like, just you and me doing like just a little jam in the park.
I would love that.
Like just when we have some free time, like on a Sunday where we're not doing anything.
You've seen that park that I live right behind.
You're right behind. What's it called?
A park.
A park. Gotcha. My bad. Yes. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of like those like parks I've seen like where I grew up in Gwinnett County
Uh-huh.
originally. Like there's all these parks and stuff, and I looked into how to set up like I was in like middle school.
Yeah.
But I learned that it's first come, first serve.
Yep.
And then there's some parks where you can actually reserve the gazebos.
Yep.
And so I was like, gosh, well, me and my other like friends, that bunch of 13-year-olds, go to the park, reserve a gazebo, and play, and just see what happens.
Yep.
But it never transpired. But I was like, dude, me and Nico could just go in there, just
Yeah,
literally just go.
They do that in Piedmont Park. There's
Really?
a couple of friends of mine do that. Yeah, but it's like at a location within the park.
It's like a designated.
Yeah.
I got you.
I mean, the only thing that you would have to be able to do is just like run from the cops if they were called. But I mean, with the amount of BS that goes on around my area with street racing at all hours of the night,
Yeah.
I don't see why they would. They might. I don't know. But
Yeah.
if you're in the middle of the day too, at like 2:00 in the afternoon, what can they really do?
Yeah, it's like we're
We're not playing for money. We're
yeah,
not. We're just jamming.
So what? Someone threw some money at us. We just.
I didn't ask for it.
I mean, oh God. Or like I get like the bus kirking. Is that
Busking.
busking? Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I remember a while back when I still had my house in Georgia. I used to play out in Alpharetta a lot,
Mhm.
and I saw that the music match program, which is awesome. I love what they do with that program, and it's kind of tied into COVID, where they were trying to revitalize the music scene.
Yeah.
And so the city council or somebody who had the authority to designate some of the COVID money was directed specifically to musicians.
Oh, nice.
And
okay.
the businesses are like, sure, we'd love to have a musician play here.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're going to pay him, so we just have to facilitate the space.
Right. Right.
Hell yeah.
Right. Right.
And
That's the so a way that EEB likes to find clients is they'll do a monthly showcase.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll showcase like up to 6 singers, and I think at this point they're doing it at Southern Feed Store downtown, or not downtown, but in East Atlanta Village.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a place where they can come and see the band. But having the International Musicians League be the parent company, they're the ones that pay us for the showcase.
Okay.
So it's literally the same thing. Like the venue is just facilitating.
It's like, hey, just keep the power on.
Yeah, that's literally it. Like, and then maybe a discount for the musicians that are there, but sometimes they don't at all
Yeah.
because we're technically not playing there, right?
You know, it's one thing I have actually started doing in my negotiations with bars and places is usually, they're like, we'll give the band like a $50, depending on the size of the band, they might do like a $50 to $100 tab.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, hey, can you put that?
Let's tab more money.
Like, yeah, can you put that into the check, and then can we just get employee pricing?
Yeah.
Like, if we
Or
get,
a meal each.
yeah, a meal. Because I mean, dude, that's the thing is like, when I was young and younger, like I used to get just so lost in the sauce. Like, and I mean, the worst part is, and the Trombley Bay Band can attest that one of my biggest flaws as a musician was that I did like to drink a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was good.
Right.
Sometimes it was not.
That's the thing is like, Yeah, bar. Okay, incentivize a bunch of musicians coming in there, staying there for 5 hours, and drinking the whole time.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And
really
then
work
when
well.
you're done, pack your shit up and get in your car and go home.
and drive home,
Like, no, that's a terrible idea.
or even or even worse. I say worse, but some of the kind people that like, hey, I have a tab open. What's a couple shots for the band? I'm like,
Right.
that's like, depending on the place. That's like, bro, if you just put that in the tip jar,
Yeah.
or the QR code,
Right.
like the QR code's so clutch. But yeah, dude. I mean, that kind of stuff just drives me up the wall. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm like, you want to pay us this or like, one venue was like, yeah, we'll pay you. It was a solo gig,
Yeah.
and they were like, hey, we'll pay you like $250, and then you get like a $50 tab. I'm like, how about
Yeah.
we change those numbers up?
Right.
And because nowadays I'm like, dude, I'll literally just pay for my tab if I have a beer or two.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm good enough, or there's enough people there that they'll throw at least like some money that can cover that, and
Right.
the tip for the bars, like
Right.
bartenders, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, dude, it's just so insane. Like, people just don't understand like what it takes, and I mean,
Well, I mean, that's the difference, I think, between being a professional and being a weekend warrior. You
Yeah.
know? Now, you play gigs on the weekend. That doesn't mean you're a weekend warrior.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the difference between being poor and broke. Like, what's the difference? Poor is a mindset. Broke is a state of being, right?
yeah,
So, weekend warrior, professional, it's not your job. It's a state of being, because you're going to have lots of peaks and valleys as a musician. You know, you're going to be playing. There's a time period where I played every single night, Sunday to Sunday.
Jesus.
And time where I didn't play at any gigs at all. So it's like, you know, you kind of have to weather the storm, and you can't base your self-worth on your gig.
And you can't.
You got to base your self-worth on yourself
Yeah.
and what you do. And that, I think, was the hardest thing for me to really get. Like, when COVID hit, and we were quarantined and all that went away. And I was like, well, who the fuck am I?
It's like, what?
I have no gigs. I have no work. I have nothing.
Well, that
Like,
kind
and
of goes
I'm,
into that.
who am I? You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Well, I mean, I used to tell myself that all the time when I was in my little depressing cubicle.
yeah.
And I was just like, this does not define you.
No,
This
it
does
doesn't.
not define you.
You are not your gigs. You are you. You know,
Well,
and you will play hopefully many different gigs throughout your career.
yeah.
And so it's not the outward that defines you. It's the inward.
Speaking of gigs, what's the weirdest, strangest gig you've ever played?
What do you like? In what way?
Just, you were just like, that was weird. Like, I don't know why they. Yeah, like, just like either like just from the spot you're playing at. Like, an example, like I played a corporate gig in Santa Rosa, Florida,
Okay,
and it was a family-owned company, but they had obviously like other employees that weren't family.
sure.
But it's a nice company.
Yeah,
The guy did really well because he could afford a beachfront house in
Right.
Santa Rosa.
right.
And they could afford armed security.
Right.
Like, but it was so weird because I was joking with that company earlier that got me to Amelia Island.
Uh-huh.
Kyle, the guy that owns the company, I became really good friends with on that trip.
Yeah.
Awesome, solid dude. Love him to death. Kyle, you're the man. Because I told him about our mutual friend that works there. He told Kyle that I do a podcast. He's like,
Okay.
oh shit, I guess I gotta listen. And like,
awesome.
Kyle, if you are listening, you're the bomb, dude. I love
Love
you
it.
to death. But it's just so funny because shit, I lost where I was going with that. Oh, the weirdness, like that gig was really cool, but he would call me the Bard.
The Bard.
The Bard, like, you know, like the historic bard, like from like the musician that follows like the king around and plays.
No.
Like, right? Is that
Yeah, it's called a bard or a jester.
jester?
Oh yeah, I know.
Like, people know the
Jester.
jester, but
Okay, right.
more for, instead of making jokes, you know,
Okay.
toss a coin to your witcher.
Sure,
Like,
right.
you know,
yeah.
if you catch that reference, you know. But yeah, basically he was just the musician or that would follow the king around and sing, you know. Or did you ever see Monty Python?
Yes.
You remember when they're
The
like,
minstrels?
yeah, the minstrels falling.
Minstrels.
Sir Galahad and Sir
Yeah, right. So he chickened out. He ran away.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like, I was literally that guy for this night in Santa Rosa with that
Okay.
one company that had
Okay.
security.
Yeah.
And I had my whole load out. Like, I was ready to like set up the speakers, the pedal board, all the sound, microphones. And
Yeah.
then he's like, all right, let's go sit you up on the beach. I'm like, what?
Okay.
I'm like, you got a power cord that he's like, what? No,
Right.
I just want you to come play guitar on the beach for my company. It's like, you paid me a lot of money. I'm not mad about this.
Right.
but it will affect the show.
Right.
But I literally just playing around this campfire, and like they were so nice. I mean, they were like, "Hey, can you play this song?" And we started playing. Everyone sung along.
Yeah, right.
It's the one time it's okay to pull the guitar out at the bonfire.
Right,
when they
right,
pay
right,
you to do it.
right,
Versus
right.
like, "Hey guys, yeah, you mind if I just play Wonderwall?"
Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But like that's like the weirdest gig I had because I was literally like the bard following them around, just playing
okay,
as
right. Okay. I don't know about weird necessarily. Like I'm trying to think. Most of the gigs that I've played in the last 10 years have all been like pretty chill, mostly weddings.
Yeah. Any weird weddings, like any like because that's the thing. I was just seeing so many weird gigs and bars, and maybe it's just because like being in the singer, like you said, I have that advantage. Like if you're going to do something with the drums, you have to have the band and stuff.
Right, right.
But I mean, God, like, yeah, it's just.
Let's see. I guess a weird gig. Okay, so a weird gig that I did was kind of in the beginning of the Emerald Empire band. We were playing in Highlands, North Carolina.
Okay.
And we had to take short buses from this like designated parking area to reach the house that we were playing at.
Okay.
Once we got there, we were set up kind of outside around the pool, and this was like maybe a quartet. So it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was a bigger band because we had to pull people from Virginia. Actually, some horn players came down from Virginia and played with us. But we ended up playing there, and these people were so into the music that they had us play another hour.
Oh yeah.
And then they kept having us chug beers, and then they brought the bowls out. But we were like, probably not the greatest idea after chugging like 4 high gravity beers.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us leave, and so the big cooler of beers that they put next to the band, myself and the keyboard player, who's like one of the leaders in the band,
Mm-hmm.
we used to live together. That became our recycling bin for like 2 years. I have tons of stories about just like playing in fields that are supposed to be like festivals, and there's like 3 people there. You know? I don't think I've ever had any like really weird gig off the top of my head. I can't really think of anything that stands out.
I've had weird ones in the last, like these corporate gigs are always fun and they're super nice, but a really good company that I love their clothes, Palmetto Moon.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Great company. That company that I played for at America's Mart that I was talking about earlier, they actually own it, or it's like one of their subsidiaries, whatever. But yeah, those people were super cool. But they had like a sip and shop event.
Okay.
And the funny part is, I actually was reaching out trying to get to a place called Palmetto Saloon.
Okay.
But somehow like auto-corrected or spell check changed it to Palmetto Moon.
That's hilarious.
And so I ended up sending the email to them, and they're like, "Well, we're not a venue, but we do have this event in Athens."
Oh, sick.
But I literally started playing in a retail store.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I did I've done a private party in like an old Macy's.
Okay.
Those are kind of fun. I for a while I had like a yearly
Like an annual gig kind of thing?
Christmas gig.
Okay.
For this company out in Conyers.
Ooh, I have my opinions about Christmas gigs.
Yeah.
I think Christmas music is some of the top quality music.
It was a private gig that was happening at Christmas time. So that's what we're not playing all Christmas songs, but a lot, some of it. So this particular company is a German company with a lot of Germans working there, and
No, that's Russian. Sorry.
I don't mean to offend an entire country of people.
Let's do it.
But Germans are a little off.
Well, they got rid of all their funny people.
They're not quite there. Like, that's true. That's true.
I got that joke from Family Guy. So
a buddy of mine, though.
They know what you mean.
Yeah.
They all know that they're a little bit of a Strickler kind of thing. They know. They all know.
But
what do you mean you're pulling my leg? Stop pulling my leg.
Right. So a buddy of mine, Stefan, who works with me in the Emerald Empire band, he lived in Germany for a while, and he said that their comedy didn't get much farther than do you want to hear a joke? Women's rights. Like that's still like prime comedy to them over there.
Yeah.
You know? This was a few years ago. Maybe it's since gotten better. But these people, like, they got super wasted, and then one of the guys that worked there took his belt off and started like whipping people with it. And they started talking about like having sex with microwaves. That was bizarre. That was very bizarre.
How bizarre.
Very. Things like that. You know, I don't really see that a lot, you know. Most of my gigs, like, I'm not around long enough for that to happen.
Well, have you ever heard, hey, Jamie, pull this up. I love saying that. But there's this picture. Look for, just Google real quick, musician that was kidnapped by the mob.
Who, Frank Sinatra Jr.?
Not good one. Let's see if I can. Yeah, click on that. Yeah, see if you can go to images.
It's a dangerous game.
All right. So scroll down. I want to see if I can find this one image. Because I remember I saw this. Go to the bottom a little bit further to see where he's playing on the keyboard right there. Yeah, click on that. Yeah, famous jazz pianist Fats Waller was kidnapped by gangsters for 3 days in Chicago in 1962.
26.
Sorry, yes, the 26. My bad. My dyslexia is coming through. But he was the surprise guest at Al Capone's birthday party.
That's so great.
He was later found very drunk, extremely tired, and had an entire had earned thousands of dollars in cash from Capone and the other partygoers as a tip. So just imagine that shit. Like, you just get kidnapped,
Right.
And like, shut up and play,
Right.
And they just kept giving him food and drinks and probably other stuff to keep him going.
Yeah, right.
But like, that
right.
was one of my favorite stories I remember hearing about.
That's amazing. I've never heard of that before.
I would just, dude, imagine they're just like, keep playing.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Like,
what are you gonna do?
da, 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 da,
That
da.
so one of my favorite drummers, Art Blakey. He started out as a piano player and then
Really?
switched to drums because of that.
Yeah.
Because the mob was like, "You're a drummer now," and so like, okay, I guess I'll figure out how to play drums now.
Yeah.
It ended up being one of the very greatest jazz drummers of all time, top 5 influence for me. But
Yeah.
just kind of funny how that stuff kind of works out sometimes. you
But
know?
whenever I think about these strange gigs, I always kind of think back to that guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
No, I mean, you know, I've had my fair share of private corporate gigs who want us to be, you know, in a specific area that doesn't make any sense.
it's like, why are you putting
Things like
us
that,
in
you
the
know?
middle of nowhere?
I played one recently that was more like an acoustic style gig where we played like next to a barn.
Yeah.
And we played literally just cocktail music for an hour.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Dude, I definitely the biggest thing is if you can get videos of your band or yourself and use that as like get top quality sound and some like just a good enough video.
Yeah.
To like get the point across.
Right.
And like nowadays with YouTube and everything else, if you can catch like the party I played yesterday, which sorry to all my 2013 friends that were at the reunion, I was working, but if those are at the after party, that was a good bar brawl, wasn't it? God. After that, I was like, I got to get out of here.
That's Smith's for you, though.
Dude, Smith's Old Bar, it's a great venue.
I love it.
Like, music-wise, some of the great shows, like, so many great shows.
Absolutely.
But the wild bar side, I'm like, I could go without this.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, just so much to complain about that. But, look, Smith's Old Bar is a Smith's Old Bar.
It is. And
Like-
it's an Atlanta treasure.
It's in Atlanta.
Yes, it is. It's actually in Atlanta, and it's Atlanta treasure.
Yeah, dude, it's just like, yeah. But those kind of things, I mean, just those gigs and things that come from there. But God, I just that whole thing was crazy. But
I've tended to stay away from the weird stuff for a while now. You know, I don't know if it's just because of how I am personally, or I know that I used to. So there used to exist a club in Atlanta called Elliott Street.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, it will exist at some point again, but
Yeah.
for the longest time, because it's been sold. But for the longest time, it was run by two brothers, Mike and Peter Jacob, who have since moved on to other things. But that gig, that venue, they had Tuesday night jam, and it was basically like a avant-garde.
Whatever
kind of
happens,
thing.
happens.
So you'd walk in there sometimes, and like, you know, there might be somebody like laying on stage with people playing around them like a eulogy. You might have
Wait.
Yeah. Yeah. You might
The person laying
Mhm.
is deceased.
not literally.
Oh, okay. It was just like I was about to say, dude, that's a.
No. It's not a death cult. No, it's not like that.
Okay. I was.
Although who knows, the basement was kind of damp and dank down there, and
you never check. You
I
never
wasn't
know.
there all the time, so you can't really be 100% sure. But that was, and then you walk down there another day, and they would have all the instruments like thrown in the corner.
It's so strange.
It's just like anything goes. Right?
Yeah.
That was kind of fun because there was no expectation of anything.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the weirder the gig is, the less of an expectation there is for you to actually do well with it.
Yeah. I mean, there's this one place that I've discovered recently in Athens that I'm very curious about. It's called the Rabbit Collective.
Okay.
And everything I've seen them posting online looks amazing.
Sweet.
Like it's I can't remember exactly what they call themselves, but it's like co-op, I guess, kind of.
Okay.
But I saw recently they had some kind of self-produced music fest, and it looked amazing. And I'm really interested to try to get in contact with them.
Sweet.
But I'm like, dude, I love it. It looks like a homegrown place.
But see, now that's the thing too about hustling.
Yeah.
You got to hustle in this business
That's
too.
why I'm like, I don't shy away from the weird stuff because it's like you never know where it might lead.
Right.
Like the private party I played. That's what I was. Okay. Yeah. When I was apologizing before the Smithsonian bar, the one of the cool things was the guy that booked me for the private gig. You'll love this. This was so cute. I'm sitting there playing. There's like 60, 70 people. It was pretty good. Like it was a low country boil.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden I'm just playing and I see this 3-year-old with a little blue toy guitar.
Aw.
He comes walking up and he stands right beside me, holds it like flat and just starts copying me.
Yeah. That's the exception to people being allowed on stage.
Yeah.
Brides and kids.
Yeah.
Other than that, stay the fuck off my stage if you're not a musician. I hate
And
that.
also don't come up to me while I'm singing.
Oh my God!
To
Thank you.
ask if I know a song.
That's the actually that's not the best time to talk to you when
No.
you're singing a song.
No, because I'm singing, Sweet Care. Oh, yeah.
Can you play?
Oh, God. Or just because, like, you were once hot and then you now think you're, like, still hot at, like, 55 and you're just doing the... Oh, God.
You know, that lessens even more after you get married because, like, I see boobs all the time. All the time. You know, I know it's kind of weird coming
Rub
from
it
me
in.
because you know my wife so well, but the point being is, like, I've seen those. Those will probably look the same as that. So I don't really care what you think or say.
Yeah. Well, it's just like now, like, at 28, if I'm playing at a bar and some absolute 12 out of 10 that's like a 19, 20-year-old,
Yeah.
like, comes walking up, like... In Athens, they're usually 19. Like, you never fuck around with Athens girls. Like, 'cause how old are you? Let me see your ID. No,
Yeah.
the real one.
Right.
Look,
right.
I don't care if you're underage drinking. I'm not a cop, but I'm not going to jail.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, dude, like, there's just so many little pet peeves like that when it comes to, like, just people wanting to get on stage. Or my personal favorite is, but outside of the, hey, good? I'm sorry, I'm just so paranoid because we haven't used that system before. So it's like a test run.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's insane to me because, like, somebody almost every, like, 1 out of 10 gigs I play solo, somebody will come up and ask, hey, man, can I play a song?
Yeah.
I'm like,
What?
no. Like, this one lady, we'll call her Barry.
Okay.
Like, one time I was playing a solo gig and I was packing up and I'm like packing up. She's like, hey, do you mind if I play a song real quick? And as soon as I was like, I mean, fuck it, sure, whatever. I don't,
Right.
It's 1:30.
Right.
And so she starts getting over there and she starts just wailing into the mic. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely just so loud. And then the bar manager comes over and says, Jared, get her off the stage. She does this shit all the time. We paid you to be here, not her. She's awful. And I'm like, I see. And I mean, it's just like people like that, like, drive me up a wall. It's like, dude, if you can't get a gig on your own.
Yeah. Well, you know, I really feel like it's this, like, sense of entitlement that people have where it's like, you're doing this thing, I'm here, and somehow they're like, I'm paying you to do it, or like you're the jester, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to do what I say because I'm the customer, and I'm like, I could give a fuck.
Yeah.
I really couldn't care less.
Now,
Like,
if it's like name some random like famous musician comes walking in,
yeah,
like Caleb Followell from Kings of Leon walks into a bar,
right.
by all means.
That's the last thing he's going to want to do, though.
Exactly.
I mean,
Like,
The guy,
to a degree, I think on principle, you shouldn't be letting them up there either. It still should be the same because that's your time.
Right.
That's the stuff that you've sold yourself for. That's what they're paying for. So
Well-
that's how they're paying for you to be on stage.
right,
That, they don't want anyone else.
right.
well, I
Right.
mean, if I'm
Wanted you.
playing a Kings of Leon song and one of the guys from Kings of Leon wants to play with me,
If he wants to,
yeah,
but
if he wants to,
I very much doubt that he's going to want to.
yeah, well,
Because, like, I mean, think about it in
that's what he
terms
does all the time.
of being a pro, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean it for any of this to come off as being like anti-audience. I mean, obviously, I love
We love 'em.
audiences. We got to have them, but please stop it. Get some help,
Get some-
right? Like, don't come on stage. Don't talk to us while we're singing. You can talk to us all you want when we're not playing a song.
Yeah.
right? You can stand off to the side of the stage all you want.
I will see you.
Yeah,
I will see
we will
you.
talk to you. We will thank you very much for
Like,
being there.
You see the little
and we do
walk
thank
up?
you very much for being there.
Yeah, we love you being there. We love the participation. There's just like there's
Barriers.
There's a boundaries, barriers.
Boundaries, 6 feet, right? We all remember 6 feet.
That was the one good thing about playing during COVID.
Yeah,
That shit, I could be like
stay away.
6 feet, and then like they would. That was just so funny because all the drunks at the bars, they would be very obedient to that because they're like, oh yeah.
Yep.
Can you play?
Right. So
I mean-
yeah, so I'm not saying anything like that, but at the same time, it does make it an interesting job.
Yeah.
You know?
Or like I've been seeing a lot on TikTok and stuff. This weird phenomenon where people are throwing shit at musicians on stage.
Yeah.
Like personally,
That happens. I'm done.
yeah, I mean,
I'm
it's
done.
like,
I'm
all
going
right, look, either y'all can kick his ass right now or we're gone.
No, I just leave.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I probably shouldn't incite violence.
I wouldn't deal with that. I'd say I'm done.
Yeah, it's like it's not safe anymore. I'm gone.
No,
I mean, dude,
I
that was
won't
what
deal with that.
that's why I dipped out as soon as that fight happened, the 6-man brawl at the bar.
Mhm.
I was like,
There's something too that comes with being like doing the same thing for 20 years.
oh yeah, dude.
right? Because
I walked in that bar and I was like, it is primed. Like,
Well,
this
that-
this is a powder keg.
but in terms of leaving somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like
That is a skill, knowing when to leave.
in this hypothetical situation, right? Talking about something being thrown at you in the bar and then you just leave. If that would have happened when I was younger, I might have stuck around because I might have felt like I had something to prove,
Yeah.
or because for some reason I'm always like in the back of my mind I'm always afraid of never being called again.
Yeah.
You know, when you get to a certain or doing it for a certain amount of time,
Yeah, you played enough places.
you
know.
realize that you don't need it as
Yeah.
much. So you're like, you know what? I don't
Yeah.
need it,
Or like this one.
and that's a very freeing thing because I've
Oh,
not always
yeah.
been able to say that. I can't really say that now because my wife's stay at home and the economy of the way it is,
Oh,
and
yeah.
on a musician's salary, so I have to take what I can get at this point.
yeah.
But it is a very freeing feeling to know that you can leave it and you don't need it because you've diversified your
Portfolio. Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I remember there was a bar owner I was playing at this really, when I talk about a dive bar,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a dive of dives. And I got done to I played for about an hour and a half and I wanted to take a little break.
Yeah.
And the bar manager came out and said, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I paid you to play for 3 hours. You want me to play for 3 hours nonstop? He's like, that's what I said.
Oh, well, that's
And-
a whole different price range there, buddy.
Yeah, I was like, and then I remember the one bartender. She was really sweet. She was the hottest girl in whatever trailer park she came from, but she was a sweet thing. But she like kind of snapped at him. I was like, he's the best we've had in here in a long time.
Right.
And then the guy was just like, I paid you to play for 3 hours, and I was like, okay.
I mean, and that's the thing too. I've seen lots of terrible bar owners
Yeah.
ruin their own bar for that reason. Because they can't, for whatever reason, they can't let us just come in and do our job. You know? And it's bar owners, if you're listening to me right now, it's a 50-50 thing when it comes to the crowd at a bar. Okay, so we will bring a certain amount of people, but you also have to have a place that people want to go, right? So to expect the band to bring your entire crowd is ludicrous.
Especially if you're like paying them $300. Like what kind of like
You've got to be able to meet us at least halfway with promotion, whatever.
Yeah.
Flyers that you're putting out,
Well, I heard
a
of
special on
Yeah.
that night, whatever it is. It's not on us
yeah.
to bring the people. It's
like-
on you to bring the people. It's on us to entertain the people that you bring
Exactly.
and to not drive people out. And while people are there, to stay there,
yeah.
right? Because would you rather have one person that buys one beer and just stays there, or they're like, hey, this guy's pretty good, let's order another round?
Yeah.
That's what you want.
That's what the bar wants. I mean, I feel like I do a pretty decent job at bars and interacting with the crowd. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. But every now and then I'll be like, hey, if you got one of these in your hand,
Right.
you put it up with me. And if you don't, this is your sign to get one.
Yeah, and then,
Like, you playfully encourage them to push them towards the bar.
absolutely.
But I mean, dude, it's just one of those things. You just gotta like feel the crowd out, and then like this one guy, I remember he was talking. He was friends with a gentleman that actually went pretty far in American Idol.
Okay.
So he's a very talented musician, and his band on average charges like $2,000 a night because
Holy
they are
shit.
just that good.
Nice.
I mean, they got a good following and everything. I mean, they'll pack out a lot of places in Georgia, and this one bar was like, hey. We the band that we had originally called out. Can you see if you can get because the person I knew that knew this person, the friend of a friend, like he's like, yeah, dude, I'm good friends with the lead singer, that guy that went on American Idol. I asked him if he could do a solid and maybe take a gig that's a little less than what he usually charges. And the bar owner was freaking out because he only wanted to play for 3 hours instead of 4.
Wow.
And it's like, dude, you got a massive discount.
Right. Well, that leads me to my criteria for accepting a gig.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your base? Or not like price, but like the credentials.
Three criteria. It has to have 2 out of 3 of these things. Good money, good music, good players.
Mm.
If it's got good music and good players, but the money's not so great,
Yeah.
I'll have fun with that.
See,
Because at the end of the day, I want to play drums.
Yeah.
Right? I want to teach and play drums. And not talking about the business aspect of it for a second, talking about more of the art form of it, that if you don't continue to push yourself as a player, you're going to get very complacent.
Yeah.
And you will never learn everything there is to know about your instrument. It's just not possible.
True.
But you get a little better the more that you step outside of what you normally do.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody asks me to do a gig that's great money, shitty music, but good players, that's cool. I could do that. But if you're going to give me no money, shit players, and shit music, I'm going to walk away.
Like, why would you do that? Yeah.
There's nothing redeemable about that.
Like, and I will make some concessions, I guess, on pay if I know the place's crowd is big. Like, I'll make a little bit of a concession on that if I know, because then we'll probably make up that difference in tips.
Right.
Because I do a very good job, I think, on getting, like, I have like 10 of these little QR pamphlets I'll go tape down on like bars, and I'll put it above the if the bar's got those slot machines and stuff, go put one in there.
And look, this is in no way meant to be like an egotistical kind of thing. This is just business.
Yeah.
And you set your own self-worth.
Yeah.
So if you think you're only worth $100 to go play for 6 hours, by all means, charge your $100.
Yeah.
If you think you're worth $1,000 to go play 3 hours, charge your $1,000. You might only work once a month.
The market will let you know.
But yeah, like, whatever you think you're worth, charge it.
Well, another thing too, a part of the business part of it is having invoices. Now for me has actually been a huge thing.
Yes.
Because some people will really balk at like, you want me to pay that much? And I'm like, here's some invoices of people that did.
Right.
Like, this is not me pulling your leg.
Right.
Like, this is what I've been paid.
Well, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with the leader of the band taking a little extra. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if they pay out well.
Yeah.
Right? So when I lead a band, I make sure that my guys make a certain amount. Probably a little more than industry average, because I know what it's like to be a side person. I also know now what it's like to be in charge of everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thankful that my first wedding client on my own were friends of mine, because there was an issue with. I don't mean to throw people under the bus here, but there was an issue with the first dance song, wherein somebody in the band learned the wrong song.
Oh no!
But it happened to be a song that this couple just loved anyway.
So it kind of worked.
So it was great. They didn't care.
Oh, dude, that's lucky.
Now that happens on a gig where I don't know the people. I'm
Pissed.
I wasn't really that. I was more embarrassed more so than anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't really mad because at least he learned a song. It sounded great. The song they sounded killed it. You know.
Do you remember what song it was?
I believe it was Lady May.
Tyler Childers.
Tyler Childers.
I
Yeah.
actually had a couple that hired me for a gig. They're like, "Can you play that for our first dance?"
Nice.
I want
It's a great first
It
dance
is.
song. And they loved it. They had a great time with it. But now I didn't sing the song. I didn't learn the wrong song. My bandmate did. But guess whose fault that is? Mine.
Yeah.
Because I'm in charge.
At the end of the day, it's like
So if you're not going to be taking a cut for that responsibility, that's kind of bad on you. Because like now, granted, nine times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, everything goes smoothly and you don't need to worry about anything.
Yeah.
But that 0.5% where something blows up, literally or figuratively, and it's your ass. It's
Yeah.
nobody else's. It's yours because you're in charge.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, right?
Yep.
But I mean, me personally, like with my bands, I do a lot of booking on my own, so I
Mhm.
feel like I don't have to like take that booking fee like and stuff. And I like to pay my guys. I want to keep them incentivized to like, hey, Jared takes really good care of us.
Yep.
I want to play with Jared.
That's a big deal.
But I tell my bandmates and anybody else, it's like, look, if you can get us a gig that's a $1,200 gig, I'll be happy to pay you $120.
Yep.
Like, it's solid.
Yeah. And I mean the way that it works in Emerald too is lead singer might not always do MCing. There might be a
Mhm.
different MC, but you get paid more for MC. You get paid more for PA.
Yeah.
You get paid more for lights.
Yep.
You know, so you start adding responsibility, you get paid more. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I show up and play drums. It's X amount of dollars, and
Yeah.
that's fine because that's all I do. It's
Yeah.
all I'm responsible for. I'm responsible to get there on time, set up, sound check, play the gig. That's it, right? I don't have to worry about any names. I don't have to worry about setting anything else up except my own stuff.
Yep.
I don't have to worry about helping anybody load stuff out except my own stuff, right? So I know that going in, and I accept that, right? Now, that Mississippi gig that you talked about earlier, that's horseshit.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's a difference between knowing what you're worth and taking advantage of somebody else,
Yeah.
right? And that also goes along with you as a sideman, right? Like if you're gonna lowball me on a gig where I normally get X amount, I'm just not gonna take it,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't have to. I can teach. I can find another lesson to teach, or I'll go drive for Uber Eats. I don't give a shit. You
Yeah.
know? Like I'll do something other than that. I don't need it.
Yeah.
So it just and you do what you're comfortable with as well. There are times if the gig pays enough, I'll take maybe a sizable leader's fee.
Yeah.
But if not, we'll all make. You're gonna make what you need to make.
Yeah.
And there have been plenty of times when, as a leader, I've either gotten screwed over from the bar or it took them months to pay me or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
My guys make what they make on the gig, at the gig, ready to go, there and then.
Oh yeah.
So whatever the gig pays, you know that you're going to get it. You know that there's no bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You might even make a little extra, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of reputation that you want to have as a band leader.
Yeah. Like the other thing I always do is I always tell like with the hometown youth, they hate it when I say the hometown youth, but with hometown youth, and when we play we play as Jared Monday in the night shift, like when it's Jared Monday in the night shift, like because it's my gigs and stuff, I always try to make sure I'm fair with them, and
Right.
I have one of them, if not all of them, come watch me count the tips.
Mhm.
It's just they're like, Jared, we trust you. It's like it's not the point.
Yeah.
I want you to never have to worry because you were here to see me count it.
Yep.
Show you the Venmo, the Cash App, all the cash like apps and stuff, and it's like I will never have that be an issue in any of my bands.
That and the only time that would ever be an issue is if at the end of the night the numbers don't match from what you told me that you would give me.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. You take what you want. I don't mind if you're gonna make $2,000 and I'm gonna make 400 because you told me how much I'm gonna make.
Yeah, I accepted
Right.
the gig with those terms.
You told me it's $400. It's here, there. This is the music. Okay, cool. I accept it. It doesn't matter what you make on top of that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'd feel a little dirty if I was that guy. That's like, we're making 2,000. I'm paying the band out 300 a piece because they agreed to that. They didn't know we're making 2,000, but it's like I'm always very upfront with that kind of stuff. But I mean, yeah, dude, I think it's just insane. Like,
Again, it goes back to how much you think you're worth and how much responsibility you have.
yeah. But I mean,
Because it only takes one time of not taking the leader's fee and having everything shit on you to be like, I'm never doing that again.
Yep.
And trust me, I've had that happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, God, there's plenty of times like that. But yeah, dude, I mean, it's just like there's so many interesting ways to make music or money as a musician now, and I really am just happy to anytime I meet musicians that are out there trying to figure out how to do it too. Like, I by no means am like the end all be all, but I've found some things that work, and I'm not gonna be a gatekeeper.
Right.
Like, I'm like, dude, here's what I'm doing. If you can do it, go for it, man.
Yep.
Like, it's not a competition.
No, it's not. It's not. The only person that you should be worried about competing against is yourself.
Yeah. Because if you're
And-
the best if you can put the best show out there you can, you're gonna get you're gonna get what you get.
And you're never going to be anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, like you're never going to be John Mayer. You're never going to be Jimi Hendrix. You're never going to be.
Well,
You're just not going to be. It's not going to happen.
unless you're in a tribute band.
No.
Oh, I know.
Even still, right. Even, but like you will always be a second-rate someone else.
Yeah.
Always, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
But you can be a first-rate you. Make
Yeah.
what you do. The
You
best
can only
that
be
you can.
the best imitation of somebody else, but you can be the best authentic you.
But the thing is, too, is like getting back to what I said earlier about the no improvisation. There's no such thing as improv. You know? There aren't really that many original ideas anymore. I mean, you take a guy like John Mayer, since he's just been coming up in conversation today, but he's a guy that sings songs and plays guitar. There's millions of those kind of guys out there. You know, Paul Simon did it so much better.
Yeah.
It's not debatable. John Mayer's a great musician. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. One of my biggest influences, but so is Paul Simon. And you would never say that John Mayer is better than Paul Simon.
Yeah,
ever.
it's
But they
just-
do the same thing. They
Yeah.
both sing and play guitar.
Or it's like you wouldn't compare John Mayer to, like, is John Mayer better than, like, Korn?
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, those are so apples and oranges.
Right.
Like,
It's
it's
but
insane.
but even then, like you look at early rock and roll. Early rock and roll is just blues,
Yeah.
literally just blues. So
We got 3 minutes on the audio recording, so
Yeah, I was saying we'd probably wrap it up here in a second.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, we've been rapping for like 3 hours.
Yeah, man. But any last words you want to say to the
But
people?
what am I dying here? Are you
No, I'm just saying, like,
murdering
as a
me now?
send off as we wrap it up here.
Just that, just work as hard as you can. Work every day at something that you can be better, right? I know that didn't make a whole lot of sense grammatically, but even if it's not practicing every day, look up a video on YouTube, book a gig, do something productive for yourself every day
Hell
in
yeah.
music, right? It doesn't have to take a long time. It could take, the other day I was able to get 3 or 4 hours of practice in. It felt amazing. But most days I'll post an ad on Facebook for students. I'll get somebody to bite. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
But you are your own.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to make sure that you can stand on your own with your own talent and your own thing, and just know that you will never be anybody else but you. So you should always work on being the best you in all aspects as possible.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you, Nico. I appreciate you being here, brother.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank
To
you
all
for
the-
having me.
All the people out there, thank you for watching the Strange Herd podcast.
Thank
Stay
you.
strange.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Sick, dude.
Yeah.